Hey, what's going on, everybody? How's it going? I'll make sure I got all my audio stuff set up right this time. Yeah, looks good. How's it going, y'all? We got our weekly RTK event going on. We're gonna be watching all of our newer players rolling through here, see who's gonna be scrapping out a win this time around, and we're gonna have some good ass games for sure. It seems like every one of these events get more and more competitive as time goes on. So how many people we got playing today? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 people. So decently sized. Not the biggest one that we've ever had, but you know, it's kind of a waiting game for the new DLC at this point. Once that comes out, people will come back to the game. Everybody's a little bit in limbo right now. I certainly am. I want all the juicy corn tools. I'm just desperately dying for them, especially the new Lord options. Really want to see how those play out. Hopefully, it enlivens the corn meta a little bit. So just seeing Valkia and an Exalted Bloodthirster every now and then, we maybe actually get some options and variety to pick from. So I'm gonna go find some people to talk to, get games set up, make sure everything is organized, and we'll jump into some matches because they should be kicking off here in just a couple minutes. Cool. Oh, if y'all want, I'm gonna do what I was doing before I started this stream. I just booted the game up and I was mapping out some builds for dealing with vampire counts because I played a couple matches against Turin the other day, and vampire counts, especially against really skilled and experienced opponents, Khorne tends to struggle pretty badly against them. I don't think it's a very good matchup for Khorne. There's just so much healing that you have to contend with that I'm really struggling to find the opportunities to pull wins off in that matchup. But I think I found a little bit of something that worked last time I played this matchup. It was just bringing something pretty basic like this. You've got, Valkia, who's just a really good combatant. She can contest the air really well. She does what she does. I don't think anybody needs me to talk about her, but, you've got, like, the Exalted Heroes pretty good. Pretty good at killing the White Kings if they're out on the field, especially on the Juggernaut here. This thing is just so beefy, and I mean, he's already got really good melee attack, and he gets an extra 20 on this against those foot characters, and even if they end up coming on horseback, he's still got the melee attack to duo with Valkia and chip those guys down. And the Chosen, I think, are an absolute necessity, and I think this is one of the matchups where they're pretty much a necessity. I haven't played around with the sword and board variant of them, but I imagine they're pretty good too. Just having the flaming attacks on these guys and the just the insane stats that they do. They just mulch through chaff and the Sternsman. You know, because they get the extra 20% because of the flaming attacks, and these guys still have pretty decent bonus versus infantry. Or AP, I should say, with the bonus versus infantry to get through all the armor that the Sternsmen have, so it's pretty good stuff. Alright. We got our first match of the day here. Valid game code. What? There we go. So we'll be spectating Random Cuban for our first game. He's gonna open up a spec slot for me real quick, and then we'll jump in here, and we'll see who he's playing. I don't even know who he's on right now. I'm gonna take a little peek at who everybody has been declaring for. I'll actually see though where he I don't know who he's playing, so I guess I'm just gonna have to see. Alright. So we got Random Cuban on the Empire right now. And he's waiting for his opponent right now. Corn spell resistance, reduce damage from magic attacks. Not magical attacks, just spells. And I do think it reduces the damage from mortis engines. I'm not 100% sure on that. Somebody might need to correct me, but I'm pretty sure that the way it works is that mortis engine damage is calculated as spell damage. So the magic resist actually does, or the spell resistance actually does mitigate that. Back in Warhammer 1 and 2, it was just called magic resistance, and then, you know, Dowie, you know, they would not really care too much if a unit had, magical attacks, because they'd mitigate, like, 25-35% of that damage. But they changed it when they, released 3. I think it was a good change, honestly. I do think that maybe there's something to be said for Dowie having a little bit of like actual resistance to magical attacks, because you know, I know that they're like lore-wise, their rune magic is kind of like a counterbalance to the kind of like spell casting that other factions have innately. But I'm not the most knowledgeable person on lore, so getting into that territory is a lot less my area of expertise than just talking about the game. That's a really good question, though, and it's one that it's one that's worth considering. Just because of the way they did have it set up in the past, and it's not the most well-communicated thing in the game. And I don't actually know, though. Maybe in campaign, there are some like items and abilities that can mitigate magic damage, but again, that's not something I'm 100% sure on. I do enjoy the Total War campaigns, and maybe I can do a stream sometime of a couple of them, because it's, I mean, historical Total War was my bread and butter for a long time, and I always have loved the campaigns. It's just that once Warhammer 3 came out, and they got Dom mode set up, that just became my absolute favorite thing. Alright guys, so we've got Vampire Coast versus Empire here. Showdown on the Lestrian Narrows, which is a really good map for ranged factions, honestly. There's quite a few lanes to shoot down, control objectives from. And you've also got good tree cover too, though. So for those factions that don't have great ranged attacks, you do still have some pretty good counterplay. You can get up in the trees. You can usually advance pretty safely up and along through these tree lines up onto objectives. You can get up in here and then just pop out. Kind of control there, but the middle objective is incredibly open, and there's really no safe place to sit and avoid missile fire. You can put like SEs behind the these shot blockers here, but other than that, if you want to like counter missile play, you either have to like lean into your own missiles to counter your opponent's artillery or what have you, or you have to, like I said, you have to get up in the trees, and you got to play these side objectives. But Vampire Coast versus Empire is two incredibly powerful ranged factions, but Vampire Coast is really not going with that. There's just Shade Wraith Gunners on the field right now, lots of zombies, some polearms and deckhand mobs alike. You got a Scurvy Dog and a Fellbat, so some early skirmish and harass for looking for any opportunities to get into the backfield or just intercept pistoliers and whatnot. Maybe get after those cannons back there. We'll have to see. Some Mornghuls. We've got the Depth Guard polearms. These polearm Depth Guard. They used to never get played, man. I'm back in Warhammer 2. They were a rare sight, but honestly, I feel like these guys might just be straight up better than the infantry clearing option of Depth Guard. Not to say that regular variants aren't like decent at what they do. They are incredibly powerful, but I really like the AP halberds and the kind of anchor that they provide for the Vampire Coast that they otherwise don't really have. You know, I mean, durable infantry is certainly not something that the vampires are well renowned for, especially not the pirates. Luther Harkins up in the sky, and we do have the Hammer of the Witches and a great cannon back here. Boris Toddbringer in the air, a Bright Wizard with that burning head just to roast out zombies. Going to be very powerful. Very dangerous for the Vampire Coast, too, because they really are just incredibly vulnerable here to it. Playing very split. Lots of units up here in the trees. Mornghuls and Scurvy Dogs going to be going up to Captain number 3, although I do think that maybe this could be a little bit of a trap, potentially. You know, Empire might want to bring out some Knights. As I say that, though, they bring out some Swordsmen to go contest the number 3, but Mornghuls and Scurvy Dogs should be able to deal with those guys. Mornghuls can do pretty good damage to the Empire Heavy Cavalry, provided they aren't the super elite variants, like Knights of the Black Rose still do pretty well against Mornghuls just because they have really good melee defense, decent charge bonus. Knights of the Blazing Sun just flatten anything it doesn't have armor on the charge, so definitely something that Woogie here is going to have to keep an eye out for, you know. Good jump. Good jump with the Scurvy Dogs onto the Pistoliers. Random Cuban lapsing a little bit there. Not really totally on the micro. Man, these Pistoliers are getting absolutely wrecked right now, man. Scurvy Dogs showing their prowess yet again. These disgusting little beasties with their weird glowing eyes. Kind of like, honestly, a little rat-like in appearance, in my honest opinion. They've got these weird, like, haggard-ass bodies and, like, manes on their head. And they do rout those Pistoliers pretty convincingly, so nice early bit of value for the Vampire Coast here. More Pistoliers. They're getting attacked by Luther Harkin. He's shooting with his pistol a little bit. Gets a little bit of a jump on those guys, takes some health off of them. And the Pistoliers, man, they're getting a little bit of value here against some deckhand mobs, and the cannons are very slowly advancing up onto the backside of the hill here, firing from a pretty interesting position and actually getting some good hits on Luther Harkin here. Luther definitely needs to start putting the moves on. He's going to be alright for the most part. He does have that regen there. Going to be maneuvering around now. moving to the other side of the battlefield a little bit, it looks like. And Scurvy Dogs do get forgotten about in this combat against the Spearmen, and some good focus fire from Random Cuban with the archers here. Killing those guys off is pretty nice. Empire really wants to control space, especially in this matchup, and that is a fat burning head right there. Blobbing up multiple infantry units on one spearman here, getting punished really hard. Oh my god. A little bit of friendly fire from that burning head at the end there, but I mean, roasting down 4 zombie deckhand mobs there is pretty juicy stuff. Empire laughing all the way to the bank on that one, pulling a nice little lead, while unfortunately up here in the sky, Luther Harkin is going fisticuffs with Boris Bodbringer. Yeah, the dad bod of all time, rolling in here with all of his juicy abilities, good heals and whatnot. Going after Luther Harkin, he got some good hits in there. Some counterfire also from the Pistoliers, pushing Luther Harkin back yet again. Fellbats, man, not really where you want to be sending them right now. Occupying Boris is nice, but at the end of the day, the only thing that Toddy is here to do is to stop these combat characters like Luther from getting too crazy in like going around and like terror bombing your Empire State Troopers. You know, State Troopers, not the best leadership, not the best stats. They can definitely be manhandled by big combat characters. Luther's not great at clearing infantry, but still does have the terror to cause, and Boris is here to counter that. So going in on him with Fellbats. Fellbats better served putting pressure on the back line here, probably. Although, Hammer of the Witches, man, and the Great Cannon, they've been struggling a little bit. They've gotten decent value. Most of it on Luther here. Luther just needs to stay away from the cannons. These cannons are moving up and definitely looking to get after the Shade Wraith Gunners here. The positioning on these gunners has been really good up to this point, but the position up here on the hill and just now getting into range of the Empire, or the Empire cannons just now getting into range of the Shade Wraith Gunners here. Gonna start getting some really nice value for the Empire. And Vampire Coast, man, taking catastrophic losses across the front line here. Spearmen with shields took a lot of damage, but they held long enough for that Burning Headcaster to get in there and just do some disgusting work against the Vampire Coast front line. And man, these Vampirates starting to look really thin here. Morgul's out here. They went and fought all these Spearmen. Looks like some Empire Knights coming out now to shut down the Scurvy Dog play. Pistoliers, Halberdiers, we've got some swordsmen and archers here, all of that doing more than enough to clean up those very isolated Morghuls. Burning Head does come down and do some decent damage, but it doesn't really finish anything off there. But I think the Empire's looking like they're in a really dominant position here. Shade Wraith Gunners are pretty thoroughly compromised now. Empire Knights are taking pretty serious damage from these Depth Guard polearms. But I feel like these guys probably could have been better served heading up to the front line earlier. I understand you want to protect the Shade Wraith Gunners, but for the Empire, I think what you can do is just layer back a regular old deckhand halberd to, you know, just push back through with your unit. If an Empire Knight is trying to, like, come and compromise them from the front, you push back through the friendly halberd that you would have back here and be a little bit safer. If you're keeping like what 1,200 gold back here to defend these guys, it's a 60-man unit. They do incredible damage against Empire Knights, don't get me wrong, but with good micro you can just continuously throw these guys around back here and keep them locked up. Luther Harkin, Fellbats, and Scurvy Dogs all trying to swarm down these Empire Knights right now. Just generally the right way to go about it, but not really doing enough to protect these gunners from the cannons, which are the real compromising piece out here on the field. And not having any answers for these, for the Hammer of the Witches especially, man, which is absolutely compiling value back here. Look at this. I mean, 1,600 so far. About to finish off the Shade Wraith Gunners here. Another fat burning head on the Sirens. And these ghostly ladies, you know. I think they've sung their last siren song here. Definitely going to be going down, dissipating under the weight of Empire attention. This Halberdier is doing a nice job of holding the line. More deck gunners coming out and getting flattened by Empire Knights. Really good pressure from Random Cuban. You know, messing up a little bit in the early game with getting some of his Pistoliers beaten up. But not letting that deter him too terribly much, and doing a really good job of taking a very measured fight in the front there, and lining all those units up for that burning head was about as clutch as you can get. Pretty perfect timing on it too. So, Depth Guard with pole arms here, doing their best to try and save the remains of this deck gunner. The Shade Wraith Gunners, you can see they're just now dissipating out the last of them, and I think it's going to be a pretty tall task at this stage of the game for the Vampire Coast to push back up onto these objectives. Fully triple cap now. Depth Guard with pole arms, all sitting in the back line here, just trying to do something to save some of these units. And as I imagine, you got some Knights of the Black Rose out here. They're doing a pretty good job of bouncing around and not getting caught up for too long on the halberds here, and getting after these deck gunners and getting rid of these guys before they really accrue that much value. 360 really isn't that good. Not too much to write home about there. Night Terrors coming out. Night Terrors could get after the archers potentially, but Boris Todbringer is flying around up here in the skies. Hasn't really had a lot to do in a little while now, but if Random Cuban's paying attention, definitely wants to send old Toddy in to occupy the Night Terrors, could get some good focus fire with the archers. Maybe push a spear up. As it stands right now, maybe these guys get in back here and then they can get after the cannons. And maybe there's a very, very slim chance that Vampire Coast can make something happen here, but they don't have any objectives. They're getting roasted by more burning heads, man. Random Cuban has been on target with these things. 1,600 value from the Bright Wizard. Luther Harkin really not able to hold up in combat here. Just a little too much shooting being focused on him. He's taken a lot of damage from those great cannons earlier in the game. Some Pistolier fire. Huntsmen are coming out now. Huntsmen will do some really nasty work to him. He's got the 80 armor, which is decent, but these guys have pretty good missiles. You know, I mean, they got 4 armor piercing. They get a bonus versus large, which I believe is just going to add flat damage on top of what they're already doing. So you can see how quickly they're melting him down, taking about 500 HP off of him in one really good volley there. Night Terrors do get on top of the archers, but funnily enough, the archers breaking and running immediately with a terror route, actually a pretty good situation for the Empire. Because now the Knights of the Black Rose have kind of filled in and are blocking these guys off of the archers who really haven't taken that much damage. And now they can just kind of turn around and help the Huntsmen with finishing off the Night Terrors and then go after Luther Harkin here. Middle objective is being capped up, but it's definitely too little too late. Great Cannons just pounding away in here, and another Burning Head going down. Doing great work against those Sirens. That has been absolutely crucial. And look at the Hammer of the Witches back here. 2544 value. Only 37 kills, but, you know, that's the Shade Wraith Gunners. Probably a little poke against some Sirens or the Mournguls down here they were shooting at, as well as Luther Harkin. Beautiful, beautiful micro from Random Cuban. Really, really well played. Love to see the Empire come in with a nice artillery line. Not too terribly often that I see people bringing great cannons and Hammer of the Witches. Not 100% sure what's going on with the game right now. Having a bit of a fit, so I'm going to restart it. Probably on the verge of crashing there. Very odd. I wish I could go back and show you all the value there, but don't think that's going to be the case. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Seji. The magic damage used to work like that, but now it's just spell resistance. I was just talking about it, so Testanon has an idea of how it works from a past perspective, I guess. Because, man, Who knew that we would be here, like, what, 8 years later, I think, now? Yeah, 8 years later, and the game is still going strong. We've had a lot of iterations over the years, too, man. I mean, from Warhammer 1 to Warhammer 2 was a big leap. 2 to 3, just as big of one. We've had ups and downs aplenty with the history of this game so far. And honestly, wouldn't have it any other way. At least CA keeps it interesting, even if, you know, at times they can be a little exasperating with some of the decisions that they make. But I'm really excited for the future of, like, the Warhammer Total War collaboration. It's been great. It's been everything that I was hoping for. I remember the day that the announced trailer dropped in, like, 2016 or 2015, I think, even, is when the announced trailer hit, and it was awesome. It was so exciting. I built my first gaming PC back then. You know, I had a fucking, oh my god, I had a 970 Nvidia card, and like an Intel i5 or whatever. You know, like super potato. Pretty good for back then, but you know, I had that thing for like 4 or 5 years. I built my new PC, which I'm very happy with. Alright. So that game, we got done with that game pretty quickly. So I'm going to jump back out here. I'm going to go back to doing a little scheming for the Vampire Counts Khorne matchup. Because it's bedeviled me for so long now. Especially against Scrambled Egg Special, who's just an absolute evil wizard when it comes to playing that matchup. You know, the Cryptors and the Vargeist are just incredibly dangerous. I mean, the Cryptors, you know, if you don't kill them off, have them actually, like, crumble out, they're just going to heal cap. And with those AP attacks of theirs and the poison, they're just going to slowly obliterate you. But I think that the Chosen with the dual weapons, you know, they've got pretty decent melee defense, and they've just got, having the flaming attacks, like I said, and really good melee attack with the Frenzy up, makes them pretty juicy. Last time I played a matchup against the Vampire Counts against Turin, and I brought these guys, they paid for themselves really well. They had like 200 and 300 kills apiece. This is exactly what I had, and I feel like this is probably about as good of an opening as you can get. You've got some units that are pretty cheap and can kind of buffer for the Marauder Horsemen. Because, you know, the Horsemen have a pretty hard time in this matchup because of the Direwolves, Fellbats sometimes, but mostly Direwolves and Vargeist. Trying to go after these guys, it's pretty vicious. Trying to keep them safe. You spend more time running than you do actually getting good value with the Horsemen. And you really actually do want to use the throwing axes on these guys more than you want to get them into melee. Typically, I find that they trade in melee really well. And the throwing axes are really nice for, like, going after large targets, but in the Vampire Counts matchup, you really need these guys to deal with the Crypt Horrors. Just to give that extra DPS while the Chosen are chewing through the chaff, you can actually do some damage to those big nasties. And then you can kind of come in the second half of the game and try and finish them off. Furies are really nice in the back half. I don't know if you need 4 of them. I feel like you kind of do. But Furies are great against Vargeist. Vargeist are like the perfect target for these guys. You can either take the fight in the air, or you can wait for Vargeist to try and land on the rear of a unit and countercharge them. And Furies with a really good weapon strength and melee attack usually do pretty nicely against them. And they can always go and help Valkia out. Valkia really does like having a unit of Furies around her, just so that they can buffer some of the damage that she might take. Because the worst thing that can happen in the matchup against the Vampire Counts is you lose your Lord, and then you've got all your units losing a bunch of leadership. The Frenzy wears off, and what happens is once Frenzy wears off, then they're no longer immune to fear and terror. Obviously, being immune to terror is really nice, but immunity to fear is really important too, because that's -8 leadership. So if you lose your Lord, you can be talking about losing like a full 24 leadership on a unit, and just watching your entire army insta-break. I mean, that ends up usually being the case of how I lose that particular matchup. So, Valkia is pretty good. I do like Valkia and the Exalted Hero on the Juggernaut. I think it's probably a little more consistent than bringing the Exalted Bloodthirster. And, Scarbrand's a decent option. The problem with Scarbrand is just the Rage Embodied is nice, but oftentimes he's not going to have anything like really high value to Rampage outside of like the opponent's Lord. And even if you're like going in and fighting the enemy's Lord, you know, on like Terror Goose or the Blood Dragon Lord, I noticed tend to be the most popular options for Scrambled Egg. Even if he's fighting those guys doing really good damage, he can struggle really hard to win you the game just because he's got no heals. And obviously, Vampire counts with the Invos and especially the Corpse Carts and Mortis Engines just outtrade you all day long, and it can just be incredibly painful to try and bring him. I think it's a little bit better to fight up in the air and have that extra mobility. And I think the Exalted Bloodthirster does have some chops in this matchup, being able to push through with his good mass and pop Deathbringer, and you can like land on Corpse Carts or Mortis Engines, get some really good attacks in, and then try and pull out. Because they do get a little extra, because, you know, I'll show it off here. The Corpse Carts, they do have regeneration, so they get that weakness to fire. Gives a little bit of extra buff to your Lords and their ability to fight. And Valkia is great and really consistent. She's very durable with Demon Shield, but she doesn't have the same burst potential. And she's got 400 weapon strength, which is awesome. But this guy with Deathbringer gets, you know, 840 weapon strength while this is active. It's active for 30 seconds too. It's more than enough time for him to do good work. So, still experimenting with them, still trying to figure it all out. It's just a really hard time. No Karanak. I like Karanak, but Karanak's got really bad mass. So what happens is you send Karanak in, and he just gets surrounded by, like, dire wolves, or the dire pack are the absolute nightmare unit for him to deal with. Where are they? We'll go show these guys off. That's the reason I don't bring Karanak, is just because he's so squishy to these guys. These are an auto-include in just about every Vampire Counts build. They've got pretty decent mass at 200, which, you know, when you've got 80 models piled on top of you, Karanak has, what, 1,500? Yeah, 1,500 mass. He'll get trapped up on those guys so quickly. And because of that bonus versus large that they have, and just being able to fully surround him, he just gets chewed apart. He's just not durable enough. The silence and the magical weapon negation is really good in theory, and can work in a lot of circumstances, but the problem is that you're probably not going to see your opponent bring Vlad. Vlad is actually kind of vulnerable here. The best thing that you can do is bring somebody like Manfred on the Dragon, or a Blood Dragon Lord, or a Strigoi. I've seen Strigoi before. Strigoi ain't bad either. But the most oftentimes the best answer for Vampire Counts, just bring the Blood Dragon Lord on the Zombie Dragon. He's got Helm of Discord and the Sword of Anti-Heroes, Heart Piercing. He's got all these really good abilities that just send him into the stratosphere when fighting against the Coronate Lords. You know? So, he's also up in the air, so it's really hard to stay on top of him within that 55 meters of Karanak's ability. Because, you know, what happens is your opponent just gets back up in the air, he flies over his main lines, and he just sits in the middle of that. And then you try to, like, pursue into range so that you can actually silence the spell casting. And that's when Karanak gets surrounded, because you're going to have a numbers disadvantage at all times in this matchup. unless you can get a really good jump in the early going with the Chosen, and they just absolutely shred through your opponent's front line. So having the battlefield control necessary to get the best use out of the old doggy here, way too difficult. Way too much micro, in my opinion, for what it's worth. And I think just going full bore into trying to brute force through the front line is the better option. And that's why I think the Chosen are the best choice. You might think that Exalted Bloodletters do the same job, but the issue is they've got the spell resistance, but Scabscraith just does so much damage. If it gets double popped on your Bloodletters, they just get wrecked. They get hit so hard by Scabscraith, and then Gaze into Gash and stuff like that comes in. Does even more nasty damage to these guys because they're low armor. The Chosen hold up against that a lot better. Scabscraith does nothing to them because they have 130 armor. Gaze into Gash still hurts, but they do have the spell resist to persevere through most of it. And these guys, I mean, they've got 10,000 HP. That's a big HP pool. And on 80 models, they're actually some insanely beefy infantry. So, it's kind of why I bring them. And, Karanak, yeah, next time, buddy. Better off not bringing them. I like the Juggernaut because it's a little bit better at getting in on the White Kings. And just absolutely shreds those guys. Really nice to see. And then you can also use this guy to go after Mortis Engines because of the also having the flaming attacks. You really have to just go deep into having flaming damage here. It mitigates healing, does extra damage against most of the Vampire Count's roster that you're going to be up against. Really nice to have. I'm still trying to figure out if Spawn are the right way to go in this matchup over Minotaurs. The Minos do have better burst potential with their anti-large great weapons. But the same thing that I was talking about with losing your Lord applies to these guys. They've got pretty good leadership. But once Frenzy goes down and they start losing out on immunity to terror, if these guys' terror routing really sucks, they'll just get chased off the battlefield at that point. Because if they're at the point at which they're going to terror route, they're below 50% of their leadership already. They terror out. Your opponent just takes some Fellbats or some Vargeist or something else and just chases them down. And I feel like the Spawn, despite not being a great unit, at least they fight to the end. So having that durability there in that regard helps a lot. But it's tricky no matter what, is what I'm kind of finding. I just need some kind of answer. I'm tired of losing to Scrambled Egg whenever he picks onto Vampire Counts. It's painful. Puts the honest to God the honest to God fear into me. So we got some people dropping some games in here. I'm gonna download them and we'll start showing off some replays here in a minute. After round 2's over, we'll do a little bit of that, and we'll try getting through them all. Wrong folder. Here we go. Boom. Alright, let's go take a little bit of a sneak peek at what we got. We got Fabrosi, Vampire Coast versus Greenskins. Oh man, lots of Vampire Coast players today. Pretty much all of them across the board so far. So you got Vampire Coast versus Chaos Dowley, Vampire Coast versus Greenskins. And well, I'm going to go take a look at the bracket and we'll see what we got coming up. It should be about done now. It's a pretty small tournament today, so we might actually be able to get through most of the replays that people send me today. I try to show off as many as possible, but it can be a little difficult at times, especially if you have a bigger tournament and you're just getting so many. I try to go through and pick out the best of the bunch for y'all. just so that we've got something to like really show off and talk about, rather than just like watching somebody kind of get run over, because that can happen sometimes. I've been on the receiving end of that plenty. You go in, you think you've got a pretty nice like build, and then you just run up into a like either a counter faction or somebody who's just better than you and is really playing on top of their game, and they just kind of flatten you, and it just is a feels bad moment, and that's really not fun for anybody. Okay, we do got round 2 going on. Let's go take a look around and see if we've got see if I can get Fabrosi on the horn. Please go away, my Windows Store. I don't know why the hell I even have this pinned to the taskbar. Alright guys, here we go. We got a lobby for us. Oh, Greenskins and Vampire Coast. It's gonna be an undead kind of day today, which I'm not too upset by. Vampire Coast have some of the coolest aesthetics, and definitely one of the more like fun ranged factions to spectate, in my opinion. Just because you gotta be really deliberate with your positioning on Vampire Coast. I do like watching them play it out, because they just can't get away with stuff for free like some ranged factions can. You got like Dowie and Empire and some of the other like mortal factions that have like really good ranged tools. Have some incredibly not abusable mechanics, I would say. But definitely have a very forgiving like measure to them, where they can really just kind of take advantage of what you can do, and it can be really hard to dive after them. Vampire Coast is a little bit different in that regard, and actually has some pretty good like rush melee builds that they can get going. So we'll see what Huntress Himbo's bringing, which actually looks to be a pretty well-balanced build coming in here. And we got Skarsnik on the field with the Black Orc Big Boss. We've got a Orc Shaman. I'm not sure with what spells. I would guess Brain Bursta and maybe Headbutt. I think that the I think that the damage spells for the greenskins are a little overlooked, honestly, especially against really low armor faction like the Vampire Co-Star. I think it could actually do some pretty good work at chewing through a gun line. Just because they're cheap, cost-effective, they've got pretty big AoEs. Love to see people playing greenskins. I know they're not in a great spot now. They just haven't gotten any love in quite a while, so I'm hoping that the DLC brings the goods for them. Mangler squigs are going to be pretty cool. I'm pretty sure those are all but confirmed at this point. You're going to have Gorbad Ironclaw, who's probably going to be a really fun melee lord. Maybe with some like army buffing abilities. Because that's kind of where greenskins used to be the absolute terror of the metagame. Was the super wide like Wurzag builds where he just took advantage of Bonewood Staff being map wide and just would absolutely swarm you down and crush you under the weight of all of their really aggressive like melee units. Maybe Gorbad can kind of lean back into that, but in a less openly like toxic way. Wurzag was pretty busted. I understand them debuffing him the way they did, but it has very much left these guys in a pretty miserable condition since then. A lot of top players dropped them, and you know, not having those buffs, you can really see the win rate drop from when that patch went down. Skarsnik's nice, man. I mean, Spite of the Bad Moon and Fermented Fungi, two pretty good abilities. You know, you can pop this and you can get some really nasty damage done, especially to these like low armor Morghuls and some of the other like animated Hulks and other targets that are out there. Just a really nice buff for all of your units around you. And then Fermented Fungi. Rampages are just great in general. Usually, the stronger factions have some access to this. Not always, but oftentimes you usually find that to be the case. Brainburst and Fist of Gork. I like Fist of Gork, man. It gives the magical attacks. Greenskins don't have a tremendous amount of magic damage on any of their units. So that'll be really good to counter Sirens. If you can somehow get on top of the Shade Wraith Gunners with something and pop that on top of the unit that's attacking them, that can give some extra DPS. Probably just flatten those guys, and also gives the melee defense and melee attack. Durkit Squigs, pretty good ROR. Really nice. They've got some pretty good leadership for a greenskin unit. They're going to sit here. They're going to cap up the number one. The Morghuls and Lamprey's Revenge, Animated Hulks. Got some Saltlord Scuttlers up in the sky. Love Bomber Bats, man. But Bomber Bats are a little risky against ranged factions. And it always is a little silly to call the Greenskins a ranged faction, but Orc Error Boys have consistently proven their prowess. They're cheap, they've got good range, their missiles hit pretty hard. They're not the most accurate in the world, but honestly, that's not really a downside in this game. Honestly, some of the missile units out here are so accurate that they like focus fire onto like one or two models in an entire unit, and they don't actually kill that much. Orc Error Boys are inaccurate enough that they actually spread their damage out over most of a unit, instead of just like focusing down a handful of models, which makes them a little less good against SEs, but I think a little bit better overall. A little bit more in line with like historical Total War games.
We have a victory punch.
Prize does have a Error Boy just kind of sitting out back here. And, you know, it can be kind of dangerous playing a little too split from your main army. You know, forgotten units like this can definitely feed a little bit of value into the Vampire Coast, who do really want to take full advantage of having having weight of numbers and being able to push in and through and kind of peel apart a formation if that's what their style is going to be. For this, though, I feel like it's going to be kind of an anchor style, like taking middle and number one objective here, and just kind of playing off the two of those. Celestra Deerfin is here. She's got the Ghosts of the Past for those damn Knights Errant. Tide Call and Denizens of the Deep. much more meta spell kit than it used to be. Used to rarely see the deep lore being brought, but I've noticed that a lot of Vampire Coast players seem to really like the Rotting Promethean summon, and Tide Call does actually slow speed and has some pretty good damage on it. Really nice wind spell, honestly. So, Vampire Coast just slowly moving up, trying not to get too in range of the Air Boys here. And Surprise does make the right call, just giving up the number 1 here. No reason to fight over all 3 objectives when you can take the advantage in the early game and hold on to 1 and kind of maneuver from there to get after your opponent's units. Night Goblin Fanatics maybe gonna sneak up and around here, get after the Carronade. We've got Mournguls. A little out of position. I think if you're gonna use them to defend your cannon, I think that's the idea here. Better to like just tuck them in like back here. Otherwise, your cannon crew is gonna get jumped on, and by the time the Mournguls get there, they're just gonna have killed the cannon crew by that point. Pretty good focus fire coming in here from the zombie gunnery mob, poking against the Orc boys, who are doing some disgusting damage to the animated Hulks here. Spite of the Bad Moon with the bonus versus large and the buff coming in clutch here, man. Look at the damage that they're doing to these Hulks. Chewing through these guys, man. I don't think Huntress Himbo was fully prepared for the damage that they're capable of dishing out here, and they actually kill that animated Hulk. So really nice getting rid of some of the mass for the Vampire Coast. We've got Orc boys opening fire on the deckhand mobs here with the pole arms, doing good work, but we do have some Orc boys here. They're getting hit by that Shade Wraith gunner fire, getting that discouraging effect. Their leadership is broken, they're pulling back, and they're leaving a very big opening here in the front line. Massive, massive gaping hole in the formation of the Greenskins, and the Air Boys are pretty wide open right now. The Black Orc Big Boss could definitely do to move over here and give that rabble rouse with the immunities psychology, and Brass Cleaver isn't bad either. Very underrated hero, honestly, but definitely needs to be in combat where he can actually make some good work happen. I know Mournguls might seem like a scary target to fight, but you know, he's got pretty good weapon strength and pretty good stats, so he can definitely do some good work against those guys. Denizens of the Deep being popped here by Celestra just to stop up the Moonhowlers, who are getting absolutely hammered right now, running for the hills, and Vampire Coast evening it up here for sure. Greenskins had a bit of an advantage, but definitely losing a little bit of their early momentum now. Although it does look like the Rampage brought the Saltlord Scuttlers down onto the ground against these Orc boys who now have the Wah active. Starting to do some really good damage to these guys. Gotta get these back up in the air. Very important unit for you to have online to be able to do work. You know, they've got that. They've got the armor sundering. They've just got really good missile strength in general. Bombs against low armor. Pretty clutch stuff there. Definitely need to get full advantage out of those guys. Orc Boy Biggins, unfortunately, not getting a great charge off in Lamprey's Revenge with Mournguls and a little bit of zombie halberd support. Probably going to win this fight. If I were the Greenskins, I would just disengage everything that can actually maneuver. The Orc Boar Boy Biggins definitely need to pull back here. You can keep the Night Goblin Fanatics in here. I mean, they are expendable. They might as well just fight and die. But getting these guys out to get a good charge off on the Lamprey's Revenge is very important here. And we've got some more micro lapses going on back here. We've got Orc Boar Boy Biggins just all the way in the backfield, not doing much of anything. The cannon has been dealt with by the Night Goblin Fanatics, which is really nice. Huntress Himbo, not fully on it. Needs to get those Mournguls going after those guys. Skarsnik here with the Black Orc Big Boss now. Popping that Spite of the Bad Moon again and getting some good damage on the Rotting Prometheans, but these are summoned. 30 seconds until those guys dissipate. Definitely need to do something to help these guys out. Is the Black Orc Big Boss within range? No, not quite. I don't know if he's able to push through, but if he can get in with these Orc boys here and stiffen up their resolve a little bit so they don't get terror routed, then I think they can do some pretty good work here. Haven't been seeing a lot of Brain Bursta popped yet. Not 100% sure if it's being used or if he's focusing in on using Fist of Gork. But good spell casting against Vampire Coast is very important. Doing a good job, though. Getting some really good damage and evening the value out by getting after the Lamprey's Revenge here, who've been getting absolutely pummeled, it looks like, by Stone Trolls and Boarboy Biggins, who are just hounding these guys down. Mornghouls and the Lamprey's Revenge trying to push away from them now. At the state that these guys are in, I would probably say it might be worth just fully like retreating back into your main line there. Good Brain Bursta, doing a little bit of damage to those Deckhand mob. You took about 10% of their HP off. There's some Orc Air Boys layering some fire in on top, but Gobbo leadership, man, coming in and being a little bit bedeviling. I believe Lamprey's Revenge have, well, they don't have Terror. So, never mind, but against Mornghouls and these guys, probably going to be suffering quite a bit. Oh, Mornghouls have Terror, okay. So that's why they were terror routing, but I don't really imagine that the Goblins are going to hold too well here, but they do have the support of the River Trolls and the Stone Trolls, so also some Tattered Orc Boarboy Biggins coming in, giving a lot of assistance with those big, that big charge bonus that they have, helping to clear through these large targets. Killing the Lamprey's Revenge and these Mornghouls is going to start putting the Greenskins in a really nice position here for maybe a little bit of a late game recovery. We do have Surprise with a tremendous amount of resources. Oh man, Prize is doing pretty well. Definitely needs to play maybe a little bit tighter on his formation choices. Does have the Night Goblin Fanatics going after the Shade Wreath Gunners in the back line here. Doing pretty good at getting after his opponent's tools where possible. But I know he lost some Biggins back here. Just kind of got forgotten about, gave him an order, and they just ran off into the ether, never to be seen again. The Immaterium definitely claimed those guys. Dirkit Squigs, very inactive over here. These guys are really good at clearing out Scurvy Dogs because of their anti-infantry profile. They can actually catch them. Once they catch them with the poison, the Scurvy Dogs really can't escape. So they're a pretty good unit to be hounding these guys with, because the Scurvy Dogs for Vampire Coast are asked to do an awful lot. They're really important for capping objectives for Vampire Coast. They're one of the few truly mobile melee tools that they have. Most of their other melee units are, like 50, 60 speed at most. Having something that's on the ground with decent cap weight and 95 speed, pretty important to get full effect out of those guys. Dirkit Squigs finally jumping out here. Getting on top of the gunnery mob, though, and, yeah, they do pretty well against Scurvy Dogs, but mostly if they get the charge, because they're about to get absolutely shredded right now. Being in this isolated pocket here, probably could have done to pull them around and to maneuver up and around, get on top of the rear of these guys, and then use the Boarboy Biggins to try and rear charge anybody that might be coming after them. We've got the Damn Knights Aaron out on the field. Finally, they're going to knock the Dirkit Squig Hoppers out pretty quickly here. And then I imagine that it wouldn't be too bad of an idea to go after the Orc Boarboy Biggins here, who do have orders going after the Scurvy Dogs, it looks like. Definitely going to do some good damage to everything here on the charge. They are a bonus versus large, mostly, type unit. Very good against those large targets, but, charge bonus just means that you do damage regardless. So getting good use out of those guys on the charge is going to give the Greenskins a lot of something to talk about into the late game. Gotta get back on a point, though, man. Being triple capped here is pretty devastating. Night Goblin Fanatics really were not able to get after the Shade Wreath Gunners. Looks like they got intercepted maybe by Mornghouls, who are finally have maneuvered off of this hill here where they really didn't do much to protect that carronade. But having a pretty healthy monstrous infantry tool here at the end of the game here definitely get some good work done. And I don't know how the hell the Lamprey's Revenger's still alive back here. Getting their big AP attacks in, having that armor and the regen coming in clutch here, man. Just hanging on by the barest of threads. 5 models with 1900 HP. They've got a decent amount of healing cap left in them. Skarsnik has been in here doing some good work. What's his value up to? Only 463, man. Pretty painful stuff, but probably getting some good use out of the Spite of the Bad Moon. Night Terror's going down here. We've got River Trolls fighting in amongst the Black Orc Big Boss. And in the middle of some hand cannon fire. These hand cannons are pretty devastating. They're pretty tattered, though. But 48 models, definitely enough to get some pretty good damage in here, man. And it's worth noting that Skarsnik does not have a shield. So he's going to be especially vulnerable. And Greenskins are, you know, Khorne suffers when you lose your Lord, but Greenskins are in even worse position because most of their units have pretty bad leadership. Outside of, like, RORs and some of the Orc Boarboy Biggins have pretty good leadership. But even then, you're still talking about, like, high 60s and 70s at most. So, not the most durable. Black Orcs, I think, have the most leadership on the Greenskins roster at 80, I believe. Very stalwart. But layering up some Orc Airboy fire, doing a pretty good job of clearing out a lot of the Vampire Coast units, but definitely need to take these infantry units and start getting some cap weight up onto the number 2 here, or at the very least start intercepting reinforcements. If there's one thing that is true about Dowie and Vampire Coast, despite all of the other differences, it's that both factions do have a bit of a difficulty reinforcing efficiently. They're very slow, don't have a lot of quick units. The quick units they do have are usually, you know, not the fastest in the world regardless, and they have pretty low HP pools at times. So you can definitely take good advantage of getting after these guys in their own lines, and then you can kind of use what you've got firepower-wise to clear what your opponent has up in the front line. You trade evenly back here, and then you can secure and hold points a lot better than if you just take a frontline fight. It's very important to intercept reinforcements for these ranged factions. Man, the Shade Wraith Gunners, they don't have a tremendous amount of value, but that leadership debuffing definitely coming in good stead here for the Vampire Coast against the Greenskins. Really nice Tide Call, getting on top of both of the Air Boys there. Doing some pretty good work, not the most in the world, and I think the Air Boys definitely need to split them up. Gotta be really careful with your ranged units so they don't get piled up on top of one another like this, because the bomber mobs with those AoE attacks are going to start doing really good work here. And you're kind of blocking your own guys in here. Ranged units, when they're layered on top of one another like that, tend to obstruct one another pretty badly. So having really clean, like, concave fire is very important for Air Boys and the like. And they could definitely be doing a lot more to shoot down these Saltlord Scuttlers, man. Coming in here, and both of the Orc Air Boys do rout here. Very unfortunate for the Greenskins. Definitely need all these guys to be firing to support this push up into the middle, because there is a decent amount of cap weight here. It's very important to remember that the Vampire Coast infantry, as opposed to the Vampire counts, their zombies actually do have full cap weight. Even just the 250 gold gunnery mobs and deckhand mobs, man, all have the 5 cap weight, so they're going to be out-capping the Orcs even when these Orc boys get up here. And the state of tickets is so dire at this stage that Surprise is just having to rush past everything, taking a lot of damage, force pathing through, really suffering here in the late game as he's kind of run out of time to be able to make this happen. Skarsnik does go down here with his poor loyal little squig there, dying ignominiously under the weight of fire that the Vampire Coast is bringing against him. Really well played by Huntress Himbo. Definitely needs to be a little bit more on point with some of the micro, but nevertheless doing enough to take good advantage of his opponent's mistakes and following up on opportunities to get a pretty close win there. Surprise did really nicely. I think the Stone Trolls, 2,600 value, my god. Maybe another unit of those guys would have been good. They do have magic resistance and a little bit of missile resistance on top of their really good armor, so can definitely mitigate some of the nastier shooting that the Vampire Coast has access to. Might be worth looking into bringing another one of these guys. I do like River Trolls. They do debuff pretty nicely, but as with all troll units, they got pretty bad leadership. They don't have quite the same resistances that Stone Trolls do, so maybe a little bit too vulnerable here. You've just got so many non-AP missiles that the Vampire Coast can get good value on, and you can see the gunnery mobs here really didn't do too badly, either paying for themselves. This one doubled up on value. These guys just about pay for themselves, but all of that is still damage being done. And against trolls don't really need to take that much damage to really start to suffer. They can definitely let you down in these matchups against undead, where it's not so much about them retreating and regaining health and coming back in to like go and just bust down a unit and break through somewhere. Undead are a little too durable to do that, so I do like that decision to bring some Stone Trolls. Just cut the River Trolls, bring more of these guys, and be a little bit more aware of the micro with the Boar Boy Biggins. These are your heavy hitters, and I did see one of them just run off into the back line and just kind of die to some halberds. That's 900 value that you really can't afford to give up. Oh, here we go. Okay, okay. On a nice match that we're going to spectate here now. I'm dropping in here, and we'll get after it. We've got a Khorne player here today with us in the room, and we're going to be seeing if the Fury of the Blood God is going to be enough to win some games here. We've already watched the Vampire Coast play a bunch. That's what most everybody seems to be playing right now. So I'd love to be able to show off a little bit of something different here, man. Yes. I love the Chaos Dowie versus Khorne matchup. I think it's one of the more even ones in the game. Chaos Dowie have some really nice range tools, but they've also got some unique units like the Immortals here. You can do some really good work against the demonic forces of the Blood God. And yeah, Chaos Dowie, they can struggle in quite a few matchups. They're probably not the best faction in the world, but I think that the way that their faction has been designed and developed, I think they are pretty good in a lot of the demon matchups. Just because, you know, they've got Hellbound on a lot of their, like, trains and some of their other units, like magma cannons and stuff. That gives them that magic damage. They get perfect vigor and Phys Res. Phys Res not super important, per se, against the demonic units, but against Khorne, having that physical resistance really helps against the throwing axes and the Minotaurs, who don't have the magic damage to get around that. So, very curious to see if Stelios is going to be able to pull it off here. Just going to kick it off. Draz Hoeth is also really nice. Flames of Asgore is one of the few like damage spells that I actually think is worth using against Khorne, just because of how utterly devastating it is. I mean, if you overcast this thing, let's just show it off for a second. It doubles up the number of projectiles. The projectiles do 100% armor-piercing damage and explosive damage, as well as the Vortex doing some damage per second for 5 seconds. It's pretty nasty stuff. It will absolutely delete cavalry, infantry, anything that it gets popped on. And Khorne has some pretty expensive tools that you can use it against, so we'll see how he makes use out of that. Lots of Great Weapon Dowie Warriors, Blazing Beards of Basharik, some Goblin Laborers. Bull Centaur Renders are pretty important to use in this matchup, but they are very squishy to some of the Cornate tools, so gonna have to be very careful with those guys. Furies are obnoxiously good at chewing through the Bull Centaur Renders. I actually really prefer, like if I were to be playing Chaos Dowie against Khorne, I would actually prefer to bring the Kadai. Kadai Fireborn, a little bit cheaper. They've got magical attacks and an anti-infantry profile to help you out in the front line, because Khorne Infantry, there are some weaknesses that they have, but on the whole, they're some of the better options in the game. Getting way too aggressive with the Chaos Warhounds here. Not really a big fan of just throwing them in like that. Those hounds are really nice for capping points, and what Kyle could do is, instead of like throwing these guys into the front line there, you'd use them to harry after the Bull Centaur Renders. Throw them in to buffer out for exactly this scenario where the Renders are getting after your throwing axes. You use the Furies and the Hounds to like intercept them and lock them in place while the throwing axes need to get back in here. You can like line your cavalry up right here and just get nasty damage on the flank of these guys right now. But Stelios is doing a good job of microing around the Renders. Did a good job there initially of keeping some laborers in to mitigate some of the damage of the Furies, but now the Renders are very vulnerable here, being out in the open. But Furies starting to take some pretty significant damage. We do have Kadai Fireborn coming in. Really nice first summon out from the Chaos Dowie. We've got some Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders out here with some Dowie Warriors looking to push the number 3. But poor Great Weapon Infantry. Valkia not dropping Slapner. They're just taking serious damage from something. Not 100% sure what, but they're really struggling now. Maybe Flames of Asgore blowing up their own guys there, potentially. Furies do get dealt with pretty nicely. Goblin Laborers and the Bull Centaur Renders pulling the Furies apart enough for the Renders to be able to finish off the remains of that unit there. And doing a really good job here of intercepting the Chaos Warhounds with the Kadai Fireborn. Absolutely gonna wreck these puny little hounds, man. Immediately breaking on leadership and no time flat, going from full health to less than half. About half a second, taking serious damage here. Bull Centaur Renders looking to help the train out, which is getting massacred right now by the throwing axes here. Fury's coming in and locking down the Blazing Beards of Basharik, stopping these guys from throwing their blasting charges here, and a really good Sleipnir breaks the leadership of the Blazing Beards here, although they do rally just in time to prevent the rout, not popping at quite the right moment. Khorne Halberds coming in, they're going to do really well against the Iron Demon, and they'll do well against the Armored Infantry here, actually. I really like the inclusion of the Halberds. Halberds are sneaky good at just straight up winning frontline fights with 40 melee attack and good armor-piercing profiles here. Do some really good work. And Valkia lands to go after the Kadai Fireborn. She is really good against them. She does really good work, but the issue is these guys are dedicated anti-infantry, and if they surround her here, they can definitely beat up on her pretty good. But I do think that Stelios is making the right call, trying to push these guys away from the throwing axes. The throwing axe play has been pretty on point so far, doing really nicely here. You don't have to be too worried about these guys being kind of blobbed up. You do want to spread them out a little bit, but keeping them close together like this isn't a bad idea. Just because they can, they've got pretty good melee combat stats, and the more these guys are locked in together in a bit of a ball to like spread damage out between them all, the better they'll do over the course of a very long game. Bloodletters here, man, they're suffering pretty badly at the hands of the Immortals, man. Immortals with 1100 value, lots of room to go still. Doing a really good job of tearing through that front line that Khorne had. They had a huge presence on the middle objective here with a couple of Bloodletters and some Marauders, Chaos Warriors, and the like. losing all of those guys, and a Flames of Asgore being popped right on top of all of these throwing axes, obliterating them all at once, just as I'm saying you don't mind keeping them locked in together like that. You get hard punished by the big spell casting abilities of Drasho with the Ashen here, who's now locked in mortal combat here with Valkia, popping Demon Shield. Very good attention being paid there by Kyle to the Lord fight. Valkia's going to do pretty decently here. We do have the Bloodletter summon from the Cultist going in there. He's doing pretty decently for himself. About 500 value on that guy. And the Chaos Warriors with Halberds. You can see how well they're doing against the Immortals here. Immortals are, you know, a dedicated anti-infantry piece. And the Halberds are holding up pretty nicely here. Paying for themselves really well. 900 value on them. I honestly am really loving, lately, how well these guys perform. Just so good. So solid of a unit. Can't really bring too many of them. If you bring too many Halberds, then you just get shot off of objectives. These guys are much better at coming in like 1 or 2 at a time and pushing up to a contested objective where they're like assaulting a position, so to speak. I actually think that's where Khorne Halberds do best. Not having shields means they're pretty vulnerable, like I said, to missile units. If you want to like put a unit to defend an objective, you really want to use like a Marauder or a Chaos Warrior, where they can just sit and hold forever, man. Throwing axes, doing decently, not quite paying for themselves, but working on it still. Immortals do get pushed off. More Kadai Fireborn out here, and oh man, these Hounds really have not been able to find a home. This is the 3rd or the 4th unit of these guys that have come out here and really not performed up to snuff, feeding a lot of value to the Chaos Dowie, who are just barely being out-traded here by the Blood God's forces. Real Kyle doing me proud so far, but Valkia finding herself in a really bad fight here. This is where Kadai Fireborn can really start to chip through her. You can see how quickly she's taking damage here. They only have the 33 melee attack, but 20 bonus versus infantry is pretty serious stuff, so they can circumvent her melee defense. It's not out of the realm of possibility for them to hit her consistently and just chew through her HP with those AP attacks of theirs, man. Furies and Fleshhounds, though, they do break through the Bull Centaur Renders and the Wolf Raiders here, and do come in to support against these Kadai Fireborn, but another wave of Bull Centaur Renders getting a huge rear charge here, falling on top of the rear of these Furies, whose leadership immediately starts tanking, taking serious damage on the charge as well, getting absolutely slapped around, and is this where Stelios starts to drag this game back from the pits of hell? Really started to lose out pretty badly on that middle objective, but does have some pretty durable units out here on the field. Infernal Guard coming out. They do get countercharged by Furies, and look at the damage the Furies are doing to the Infernal Guard right now. 100 armor doesn't mean shit to Furies, man. You know, they've got 13 AP and really good melee attacks, so they're getting through onto the units there, getting some really good damage done. And Valkia, man, gotta get her out. Oh, losing Valkia and that big blob of demonic units here, very painful. And a lot of that damage to the demonic units, the Furies and the Fleshhounds, not reflected in the damage modifier up here. That's one of the risks of going demon heavy, is sometimes you can go in and see, oh, I'm up by about 1,000 on my opponent, but the truth is that you're probably down by 1,500 or more because, you know, you're not really in the heat of battle realizing just how many of your units have been dissipating and just how aggressively they've been dying off. Demonic instability is incredibly punishing. Valkia is unceremoniously ripped to pieces out here by the Bull Centaur Renders and the Kadai Fireborn, man, who have 2,500 value on these guys, 823 here. You could probably give them an extra, like, 1,500 from all of the shock damage they did up here to help peel all of those guys off of Drashoth and the Kadai there. doing really good work against the demonic units here, and I think Khorne is really starting to falter here in the fourth quarter. Looked to be in a pretty dominant position for quite a while now, but a lot of these units, man, you can see the debuffs from the to the leadership starting to get really punishing here. Infernal Guard, they took a lot of damage in the early going, but they're starting to hold in here, and they've got about 1,000 value, which is paying for themselves. This damn Iron Demon, too. On 528 health. Actually, using the Throwing Axe Cav to intercept the Wolf Raiders. Honestly, not a bad call. These guys have really good charge bonus, good weapon strength. They actually win this fight more often than not if you get the charge off. So I do like the aggressive play there, but these guys are alone and in danger here. Infernal Guard closing the distance pretty fast for some Dowie. You know, they are natural sprinters, guys. It's well worth remembering those wise words. Getting after there, gonna take that #1 objective. The #3 being taken away from the Blood God, and Kadai Fireborn just happily chasing down Marauders. And I think that the real Kyle is just completely out of gas at this stage of the game. Very, very clutch win here from the Chaos Dowie, man. Looking a little grim at one point, but not panicking and staying very persistent in summoning out those high DPS counter-type units. And, I mean, I really think that game goes to show you the value of scrapping for the entire duration of a game, because you get a really good spell cast to kill your opponent's mobility. You trade as evenly as possible in the front line to stay in it as long as possible, and then you get your heavy hitters out and you get a nice collapse on a pocket of your opponent's forces and just absolutely take them to task and leave your opponent with absolutely nothing left to fight with. Really well played by Stelios. Great comeback there. And I respect the attempt, Kyle. You almost had it there, man. I really love the build. I don't really have any notes for the build. I think this is really, really well put together. I think you can probably bring one less Fury and Fleshhound, honestly. And I actually kind of like having a Warhound mixed in here. I just wouldn't bring them in early. I didn't realize that was his first summon in. You want to save up to get some Minotaurs out, because you know there's going to be Bull Centaur Renders, Trains, and Fireborn most likely. And, you know, you see something like this on the field in your opponent's opener. I know you've got the throwing axes, but it's nice to have something with some mass to, like, lock these guys down and to also stop the Iron Demon from just rampaging through your front line. Because this thing's pretty nasty. And it's very difficult to lock in place. You do have Valkia and the throwing axes, like I said, that can do some good damage to it, but the Minotaurs just put you over the top, I think. So, saving up to bring these guys in first is probably the best way to go about it. Cut a Fury and a Fleshhound, and maybe cut this Bloodletter. Bring an Exalted Bloodletter. Exalted Bloodletters are really good in matchups like this, where your opponent's going to have a lot of like mid-tier, heavily armored infantry. They can just chew through these guys all day. I mean, they'll take 2 or 3 Chaos Dowie Warriors at once, honestly, and win. So, other than that, though, very good opener. Throwing axes, a nice durable Chaos Warrior to go lock down a point, aggressive units with the Bloodletters and Marauders, Cultists for the summon, really nice. I do also love the inclusion of the Icon of Endless War. It basically gives the Cultist perfect vigor, makes them very efficient at going after a lot of different units. Download some more replays here. And I'm just going to go and check on the bracket. I believe we're in round 3 now. Yeah, people are finishing up round 3. I'm debating on whether I want to do, let's see what the see what the points are like here. Let me pop out here. I'll show you what I'm checking out. We'll probably get in and see if we can watch any of the matches that might be determining who makes it into the top 2 today. It is going to be... Oh, it is... Oh, never mind. I thought it was a top 2, but it's actually top 4. So we'll see if anybody is going to be playing any tiebreaker matches in the 4th round here. We'll try and cover those so that we can see who are going to be our semifinalists. I think we've got time to do maybe one more replay before we get to that final round, though. Let me jump in here and get us set up. Ooh, what the hell is this build? Okay, I'm so curious to watch this in action. We've got Random Cuban on the Empire versus Stelios, who's coming in here with Astrogoth and just a bunch of Chaos Dowie warriors. There's no way this is a full army, right? What the hell is this? Truly baffling. I'm so curious to see how this this plays out, though. I mean, I know Astrogoth is pretty pricey, and but these guys, all these Chaos Dwarf warriors added up are 4,000 gold thereabouts. I'm so curious to see what's going on here. He just not bring a full build. He does have a pretty decked out Astrogoth, so I don't know what that's about. Very, very tiny army and gigantic Empire force here. I don't actually know if this is really going to be a very long game here. I just really want to see what the outcome of this is. Some kind of insane mind game going on, or what is it? Astrogoth immediately goes for the number 3 and gets jumped by Boris Todbringer here. And starting to get bounced around. Pistoliers, tons of Empire forces moving up, Hochland long rifles, Hergig Jaeger Corps actually maneuvering up out here, doing a lot of damage. Hellstorm rocket battery coming in to counter the Chaos Dowie warriors, and yeah, this looks like it's just an absolute mess of a game. The Jaeger Corps there, doing a really good job of counter-firing him, roasting some of his own Chaos Dowie warriors there, and the Hellstorm rocket battery missing some shots, not doing too terribly well, but getting a few hits in there, getting a little bit of damage done. Nothing tremendous, really. Boris Todbringer coming in here and doing the balance of the heavy lifting for peeling through a lot of the leadership and doing some damage to these Chaos Dowie warriors. Magma Cannon getting a little bit of damage done. And I think we're just kind of watching the Chaos Dowie get flattened here. I have no idea what's going on here with Stelios. We just watched Stelios play a really competitive match, and it just looks like he didn't even bring a full build in. It was very odd. I'm gonna go check out the cost of this build, honestly. Flamestorm and Ashstorm did have Stone Mantle and all of this stuff. It's pretty pricey. I mean, just 3,000 gold not on the table there, so no clue what's going on with that particular match. I left y'all on red. I'm so sorry, guys. That's my bad. If y'all want to see what this build is, this is what it looked like. You've got Astrogoth and these Chaos Dwarf Warriors, Blazing Beards of Basharik, and then just nothing else. Just like a full 3,000 gold left off the table there. I'm not sure if there's like a issue with the file being sent or what, but Boris Todbringer and the Celestial Wizard doing some pretty good work in that game there. as well as the Herge Jaeger Corps was just absolutely dumpstering these shielded infantry. You know, they've got the they've got that shield breaker ability, which is pretty nice in a pinch. Interesting to note that I believe these got the regular Hochland long rifles don't have it, but the Herge Jaeger Corps gets the benefit of this, which a lot of these rifle type units have. Jezzails and Crane Gunners, I believe, both also have that like passive ability. Yeah, my bad, Kyle. Squarehead. That's on me. It wasn't worth seeing anyways. I spared y'all the pain of what I just had to witness. It was just Astrogoth going in and getting dumpstered by Boris, while the front line just got shot to death and terror routed by the opponent's lord. I'm not sure what Stelios is cooking up here. Maybe the replay file is corrupted somehow or something, because that can happen. The way that the replays work is it's like lists of like builds and units and then orders and everything, and it like plays it out. Sometimes they get sent and they don't copy over correctly, and they can look kind of janky in actual play. Alright, we're still in round 3. I'm gonna see what these I'm gonna see what the other replays look like. We've got more Vampire Coast action coming in here. Let's see what the let's see Fabrosi and Random Cuban match up against one another. We watched Random Cuban bring this very same build in his first match, so curious to see how this performs against Fabrosi, who's bringing a pretty different build from what Random Cuban matched up against in his first game on Lustrian Narrows. We do have a mortar here. We've got some Mornghuls. Lots of handguns, which is a very interesting choice against the Empire, but going to be very punishing hitting in against the Empire heavy cavalry. You know, those guys don't love getting hit by gunpowder. As you might imagine, I don't think that there's a single cavalryman during the High Renaissance who would have told you that it was a very pleasant experience getting hit in the face by an arquebus shot. Pistoliers taking the number 2 and the number 3 here. Boris Todbringer flying up in the sky here. Just getting ready to party, looking for some opportunities in the early going here. So he's just such a good lord, man. So durable. Midland Runefang is just a really great heal. It's kind of crazy that he heals better than, like, Lumen, whose heal is contingent upon not routing. Boris can route and still have his heal active, while Lumen just struggles and dies, basically, if he routes at any point. White Cloak of Ulrich and Blood Roar also being 2 really strong debuffs. Just a great unit. Very independent, and usually the option you want to go with if you're not going to be bringing a Life Caster. If you bring a Life Caster, then you want either Karl Franz or a Master Engineer in the Steam Tank, who... Master Engineer in the Steam Tank, honestly, is probably the best Lord option in the game for the Empire. The amount of durability and battlefield control he gives is absolutely nuts, and can just outright win you a frontline fight by himself, too. But there is a lot of shooting on the Vampire Coast, so probably not wanting to risk bringing him and him getting gunned down unceremoniously. It's one of the few ways that you can actually punish the steam tanks, is with good ranged pressure. Scurvy Dogs getting flattened out here by Empire Knights. Really good jump out of the gate here from Random Cuban, but Fabrosi doing a really good job of turning attention immediately and getting good damage with the handguns here. And Pistoliers trying to be really sneaky and get back here and get on top of the mortar. One unit does, but the other is punished really badly by the handgun fire, overlapping and absolutely brutalizing these pistols, while the Scurvy Dogs come in, do a little bit of nibbling. getting after the horses and just ripping these guys apart, man. Very painful losses in the early going from Random Cuban. Maybe getting a little too aggressive here, lapsing with Micro a bit. Empire Knights getting compromised by the Depth Guard with polearms, hounded down by Scurvy Dogs. Black Spot doing really nicely here, 400 value on those guys already. And all the while, honestly, not the worst trade in the world. You trade a unit of Morn Ghouls for the opportunity to lock out a lot of your opponent's tools back here. And you trade off 2 Pistoliers and an Empire Knight in the early going. Definitely making up for losing these Morn Ghouls. Honestly, I really do kind of appreciate that play there. Frontline fight engaged now. Swordsman fighting against the deckhand mobs. You know, it's kind of a even fight. Obviously, the thing that the Empire State Troopers want to do is just kind of lock in here and just wait for opportunities for Burning Head to get cast here, which really needs to start going in here. Could definitely get in there, do some good work. I think oftentimes people can overestimate the amount of damage that spells are ever going to do in one fell swoop. Random Cuban got some really good casts in his first match. He got 3 or 4 deckhand mobs at once with one of his Burning Heads, but not casting any aggressively here in the opening. And, you know, trading pretty evenly now, though. But losing the Swordsman here in the front line, finally casting a Burning Head here, doing a little bit of damage to the Depth Guard. Deckhand mob's taking some work there, but misses the other deckhand mob. These guys can just, you know, finish pushing through and stay on top of Count Noctilus, help him out. Depth Guard doing a really good job of maneuvering around and resecuring the flanks here. Empire being very aggressive with their infantry. Although, definitely want to use these spearmen to try and push onto the guns. Or just straight up retreat here and leave the handguns to slowly try and work their way forward. Really nice control. Taking advantage of the gap in the enemy formation, getting in that big pencil line, getting right up in the face of these handguns, doing some really good damage there. Definitely need to ping-pong out of here, though, and go after this other handgun unit. Don't want to sit in here and get compromised by deckhand mobs. You know, too many of these guys getting after you. They do a little bit of damage. They're going to do some work against you. Handguns can turn their attention to you if you sit in one place for too long. Beautiful Burning Head now. Random Cuban finally waking up and getting some good casts in there. Roasting through 3 units. Just missing the rotation. Could have gotten a little bit more damage in there. Unfortunately, though, that Burning Head has a mind of its own. And doesn't quite finish anything off, but does get some really good work done on a lot of the handguns who are finally starting to be dealt with very efficiently now by the Empire. Empire with a pretty dominant ticket lead at this stage of the game. Vampire Coast, you know, has the number 1, has a little bit of something going now, but definitely is going to need to get a triple cap here. It's definitely not the best position for them to be in, but they are doing a good job of securing their back line here, but are they going to be able to get it done here in the late game? A Wind of Death coming in and deleting these swordsmen, but that's a very expensive spell. And I do believe that was Overcast, so that's 24 Winds of Magic there. And maybe not the best option for clearing through these guys. They're pretty low. Not doing a tremendous amount. Great Cannons and the Hammer of the Witches. This is definitely a little bit of a map knowledge situation. I think if you're going to bring artillery pieces, you're better off bringing like a Hellstorm rocket battery. Cannons just don't have great line of sight. They can do a good job of getting up in position on the front part of this slope here. You know, they can sit up here and they can control the number 1 objective really nicely, and you can kind of play very aggressively from there on it, but they have a hard time shooting up onto this middle point. The angles are really harsh for cannons, and they either shoot high and miss completely, or they fire through, and what happens is they like hit the side of the hill, or they shoot short and they don't do any damage. So Not the best choice, but Random Cuban's persevering in here and trying his best to do some good damage with these guys, but the Great Cannon here does get routed by the Fellbats. I mean, Fellbat chewing apart a cannon crew. Pretty beautiful stuff for the Vampire Coast here. We've got the Night Terrors. They are hounding around out here. They've dragged down some Empire Knights, and it looks like some Pistoliers too of the Mists. And more Pistoliers. They're trying to pull back, not wanting to stay engaged in combat there. And I think the Night Terrors and the Scurvy Dogs could definitely stand to maybe get after these Archers. As I say that, though, really good deckhand mob summon from Count Noctilus on top of those guys. So maybe just going in to help hold on to this #1 objective right now. Getting on the rear of the Swordsmen, the Halberds, man. All these Empire units holding it down out there. And Fabrosi not being aggressive enough out here on the flank. We've got Scurvy Dogs that are about to get flattened by the Knights of the Black Rose out here. Mournguls definitely need to be on their way over there, and the Scurvy Dogs need to replace through those guys, get themselves into a position where they're a little bit safer. Depth Guard and Deckhand mobs do secure the middle, but trade the #1 objective in return. Another Wind of Death? Oh, Burning Head coming in from the Empire. Mostly just hitting this summon, not doing too much to the actual Deckhand mob here. These guys just chilling, hanging on. Not too worried about it otherwise. Depth Guard with polearms doing their best to clear out the halberds, but they'll do pretty well. They certainly will do a lot of damage. They have pretty good melee attack, but 42 melee defense is pretty juicy. And it's coming down to the Black Spot actually being able to help shoot those guys off and finally rout them. Gonna resecure the #1 objective here for the Vampire Coast. They do lose the Night Terrors, though. They kind of got dragged out here into the Nether Realm. And Boris Todbringer and the Pistoliers doing a really good job of focus firing those guys down while they're locked in combat against the one-eyed man. You know, I mean, he's pretty nasty. Can definitely do some good work. I mean, I've been talking him up this whole time. He's got 1100 value, which is pretty decent. He's not going to be great against Count Noctilus. Doing a very good job as Random Cuban of controlling the flank engagements with him. Honestly, probably the best position for him to be in, truthfully. Knights of the Black Rose with some Spearman support. They do kill the Scurvy Dogs here. They don't really take the fight against the Mournguls. It looks like the Mournguls kind of pulled back into the trees there. Definitely need to get up here. You do have to cap this #3 objective at this stage of the game. Hold on to the other points around the battlefield, though. And Empire far from gassed here. They've got a lot of room to work with in terms of the ticket lead that they've got. They're down in value, but it could be a lot worse. Vampire Coast, the crumbling on Undead also doesn't count for the gold damage value. And it's not quite the same as Demons, but it still does add up over the course of a game. Kind of hard to tell just how even this game is or isn't. I would say that it's dead heat right now, in all honesty. There are a lot of Empire State Troopers on the field. And as good as these Depth Guard are, man, these Depth Guard are not the Halberd variant, and they are not having a good time fighting against Boris Todbringer here. They're getting shot in the back by these archers. I really actually love Random Cuban's use out of these archers, man. Just like running them right up into the heat of combat just about. And firing danger close into the Depth Guard here and doing some pretty good damage against them. And it's really starting to add up with old Boris here, who's lowering the leadership and getting these guys into a crumbling status now. They do get a nice invo from Count Noctilus there. Going to help them quite a bit. Deckhand mob summon another 30 seconds on these guys. They do get on top of the archers to shut down that firing for now. Count Noctilus slowly making his way over, but I think that what's going on here, unfortunately for the Vampire Coast, is I think they're not going to have enough answers for Empire Heavy Cavalry in the late game. We do have the Lamprey's Revenge over here, but they're starting to take some cannon fire. Cannon's doing a very good job of focusing these guys down, and Hammer of the Witches really haven't been doing much up to this point, but now able to actually turn and fire in on the perfect target for them. Giving some support to these Empire State Troopers out here, and forcing more summons out from the Vampire Coast to support this number 3 objective, which is where the heat of combat is occurring right now. Lampreys, Night Terrors, deckhand mobs aplenty on top of this point. Knights of the Black Rose trying to help out. Barely holding this down is the Empire. Empire really does need to hold this, because if they don't hold on to that point, they're pretty spread out elsewhere on the battlefield. They have a chance to get back on the middle here. They've got some Empire Knights, but they do have an awful lot of stuff being held up by these Depth Guard here. And losing this point here, it's going to be a lot easier for Vampire Coast to hold on to this than it is for Empire to retake right now. From that point, the Vampire Coast can just kind of trickle units up here and maybe be able to lock it in and take the game from there, but just scrapping across the battlefield still, and I think that the Empire is gonna hold on to this. Just barely a last-second Burning Head coming in there, and barely really nice focus fire from the Empire here in the late game. And Boris Todbringer, 1600 value, healing capped, and just barely gonna be able to squeak out of here with a... Do manage to actually retake that middle objective, so getting real dominant there at the end of the game, I think, for the Empire forces. Some really good Burning Heads, not quite as good as they were in that first game, but you know, it's rare that you're gonna get as many good opportunities for those as you did that first go around. Pretty good value on the Depth Guard. These polearms, you know, trying their best. They were holding that flank objective for quite a while. Kind of hard to peel those off of the Empire unless you're bringing out some good shooting to deal with those guys. And the cannons, not doing too hot on this great cannon, but Hammer of the Witches, man, proving its prowess yet again. 2,000 value on that thing. It's really nice to have chevrons on artillery pieces, because it just means they fire so much quicker. Gives them a really nice amount of reload skill. Black Spot did really well. In addition, I'm sure you saw. Just to show y'all. Although it's not going to show up here. I really wish that chevrons were displayed a little bit better here on the unit selection screen, so that you can actually see what it does. But the way reload skill works with chevrons is it gives a like percentage-based reduction to their reload time. So if you give like max chevrons to something like really good example is the Soul Grinder. Soul Grinder fires every 5 seconds anyways. If you give it like max chevrons, it's going to display. Actually does show up here. It only reduces the reload time down to like 4.1, which is still nice. It's a really decent percentage-based reduction. So on artillery pieces, when they get max chevrons, you know, you've got these guys, Hammer of the Witches, firing every 18 seconds, as opposed to a regular Great Cannon, which fires every 22. Those 4 seconds can make all the difference. Just with the pace of the game, it plays out pretty quickly. So having 4 seconds every volley in between, in the time it takes these guys to fire 5 volleys, these guys have fired 6, and you just layer that on top of how much ammo these guys have. You're firing all your ammunition with the Hammer of the Witches in, you know, what? 25% faster than a regular Great Cannon, as well as having better accuracy on top of that. Really nice stuff. So, I do really like the ROR artillery pieces. It's kind of funny because there really aren't a tremendous number of them in the game, but you know, Dowie have the Goblin more consistent than if they didn't have it. I don't know what's going on with this download here. We've got some more folks coming in with some replays. dropping them in here. I think round 4 should be about up in just a moment here. Oh man, they've just been grinding through these games. We've actually got some people still playing their round 3 games, and other people finishing up rounds, and other people finishing up round 4. Random Cubans coming in here with 4 straight wins rattled off in succession. Random Cuban over Papa Dancer, Fabrosi, knocking off Son of Heaven and Surprise here, so definitely going to be in the top 4 there. Son of Heaven probably going to make it in. Has really good tiebreakers right now. Jump out here. Y'all can take a look at the bracket right now. I'll zoom it in for you too. This is what the bracket's looking like. These two have finished all their games, and I don't think anybody's going to be getting up over 9 op points. So Son of Heaven probably secure in the top 4 for the semis. Zammy did get a bye and has just the 2 wins, unfortunately. So very at risk of not making it into the top 4 here. Probably going to be supplanted by some other folks here. Smelly Monkey with a good opportunity to get up in here. Bongo's also playing really close. Bongo's been improving a lot lately. Bongo's been an absolute stalwart of the tournament scene. See him in just about every event, it seems. Alright, guys. I'm going to go see if I can maybe try and catch somebody before they play the round 4. I thought everybody would be stacking up to get ready to play them, but I guess not. But that's alright. We've got plenty of replays to go through. I appreciate everybody who's been showing up in here and helping me out. It's very appreciated. What did it mess up with your opponent's score, Kyle? Because definitely don't want to put you in a position where you might end up missing out on your chance to get into the top 4 because of that. Let me know if you need any help with that. Alright, guys. Got some more replays here. Empire Greenskins and, ooh, Vampire Counts versus Vampire Coast. Honestly, I think we're gonna watch this. I'm just gonna keep an eye out, see if anybody is wanting me to spectate them. I'm just gonna kind of let them play out. We'll do the semis and finals live, obviously. I usually like to try and get some of the first and second round live casts until people send me replays. And I kind of like to keep it rolling along. It's a little bit easier, a little bit better paced that way, in my opinion. Wow, this is okay. So we've got old Manfred von Baldstein on the dragon there. You can see he's got the Pestilential Breath ability. Huntress Himbo coming in with Celestra Deerfan. On foot, no giant crab here, but triple rotting Promethean gunnery mobs coming in with a Carronade and a deck gunner. 3 deckhand mobs, 3 polearms, and excuse me, guys. Dak Ninja's coming in here with a pretty wide infantry build and actually has some pretty elite stuff in the opener. You've got Graveguard, here. Two of those guys out there on the edge looking to go after and hold their own home objective, I'm sure. We've got a Necromancer on the Corpse Cart with the Unholy Lodestone. Yup, for the leadership and the heal. Vigor Mortis, obviously, there as well. And another Graveguard backing up a ton of zombies. And just pure meat, man. Just a big old pile. Crypt Ghouls moving up out of the Vanguard to take the number 2. And we're going to have to see where this Gunnery Mob blob goes. Because that's a pretty aggressive opener, honestly. Can definitely maybe overwhelm the low-quality infantry that are out here. Other than the Graveguard, even the Graveguard, though, are going to struggle against these, against the Rotting Prometheans. I mean, they just are so meaty. They've got good AP, too, so they can do some pretty good damage against these Graveguard. Manfred's going to have to put in a lot of work here. Doing a pretty good job so far of dodging around, avoiding some of the Carronade shots here. Gets tagged by one of them, takes about 400 damage, unfortunately. But Manfred should be alright. You know, he's got healing. He's got a pretty good HP pool, too, on that dragon. He should be able to recover from that. Zombies and the Necromancer slowly creeping forward here. I'm actually going to fast forward it. Just so that we're all spared from the shambling death march here. You know, just taking a casual, 2 minutes to even arrive at the contested objective here for the Vampire counts. Vampire Coast moving up a little slower, being a little more discerning, as opposed in a fat Gaze of Nagash going in there and taking half health off of the deck gunners in one fell swoop there. That is kind of the risk here. Vampire counts have always had a pretty favorable matchup against the Vampire Coast, kind of for this reason. They've got really good tools for getting into the backline and peeling through cannons and deck gunners. Gunnery mobs can do some pretty good damage to a lot of Vampire count units, but they lose pretty hard to like Fellbats and Scurvy, or not Scurvy Dogs, but Dire Wolves. And it's just really easy to pressure down a lot of the ranged units, which is why I think the gunnery mobs, the Rotting Promethean gunnery mobs coming in here are a really good idea, because they're, like I said, very durable, very hard hitting, and they can definitely just grind through the piles and piles of chaff that Vampire counts certainly seem to love to rely on. They will struggle a little bit against Crypt Horrors, but really haven't been seeing too many of those out. We do have a White King on the field on the Barded Warhorse, maneuvering up, looking to get into combat here against some Night Terrors, it looks like, as well as maybe chip away at the Lamprey's Revenge. I would kind of honestly like to see him going after Silostra here. Silostra is pretty vulnerable to this guy. Is an infantry-sized target, is ethereal, and this guy does have the magical attacks to get around her Physres, so he can certainly come in and just take her out in the right circumstance here. Backing that up with Manfred wouldn't be a bad idea. Gaze of Nagash is also pretty good at hitting these SE targets. It does the way that it works is it's kind of like the old Zinc Soul Grinder, where the missile spreads out to hit multiple lines of infantry if they're in like a deeper formation. But then against SEs, it actually kind of locks onto the single target and all of the missiles hit. So very interested to see if Dak Ninja takes advantage of that. So far in the early game here, really nice Tide Call. Hitting all of the zombies here. Rotting Promethean summon as well, and the Rotting Promethean gunnery mobs. Man, these guys have taken some pretty serious damage here. Losing about a third of their HP. They've got quite a bit to go still, though. And they're slowly grinding through this big blob of garbage so far. Mortis Engine coming out here, though. Going to be very dangerous. We do have the Crypt Ghouls, who I think we're trying to sneak around the battlefield here. Scurvy Dogs and some Deckhand mobs, dispatching those guys. Morn Ghouls moving out of the spawn. Going to be moving up to support, while the Carronade looks like it's going to be focusing down the Mortis Engine, but you need a lot more shooting than just one Carronade to take out a Mortis Engine. I mean, really slow reload time on this thing. Every 21 seconds it's going to be firing, and it does really good damage. Really well engaged right now. It does actually leech life off of monsters' infantry targets pretty nicely. Very, very powerful unit. I think Mortis engines probably need to get looked at a little bit. A lot of these Mortis engine effects just don't have tremendous counters outside of just with his Forbidden Rod there, giving a lot of Winds of Magic to Manfred, who's also regenning Shade Wraith Gunners, Carronades, and all of these like range tools. Then they're too thin in the front line, and the vampire counts have enough. Mobility and enough cheap mobility at that to get back here for free, and they can just jump all over these units and really tear through them quite efficiently. Crypt Ghouls and some Skeleton Warriors coming out of the spawn zones, getting right up onto the number 3 objective, resecuring that cap weight, doing a very good job of holding onto it here. Scurvy Dogs not able to flip it. These guys aren't, unfortunately, for Huntress Himbo. Not that it would really matter, I think. Another thing, Scurvy Dogs are amazing in so many different matchups for the Vampire Coast, but they tend to struggle a little bit against the Vampire counts, just because there's lots of good answers to them. Black Knights kind of mulch through these guys. They're not really going to find the same kind of good upward trade opportunities against Vampire counts that they would against other factions, because they can't really trade into zombies. They do pretty poorly there. They obviously can't fight Graveguard. They don't want to fight dire wolves or anything like that. And it's just not great for them. It's just really difficult for them to do well. They're better at helping to do stuff like sweep off Vargeist that are getting aggressive on ranged units. They could be back here chewing these guys up and giving the Shade Wraith Gunners an opportunity to escape right now, but instead, the Vargeist just land for free, and they just absolutely rip apart these really squishy deck gunners. Fizzres be damned, it doesn't even matter. Vargeist just have really good weapon strength and crazy high melee attack. I mean, 51 melee attack on a non-ROR unit is pretty serious business. Carronade getting worked down there. Not 100% sure by what. Probably some mobility of some kind. Bats, or maybe just Gaze 'em to Gash. Gaze 'em to Gash can actually kill artillery pieces. These are all looking pretty ruined, so I think maybe they got hit by that. Silastra is very, very low out here. And while Vampire Coast do have the value lead, none of that is accounting for the sheer weight of heals from these corpse carts. And, man, the Mortis engine just barely hanging in there. 1,600 value on it, giving the magical attacks to everything in this blob here so they can fight a little bit more effectively against the Sirens. Direwolves collapsing in on the rear of the Sirens. Good night. Sirens going down for sure there. And the Vampire Coast is looking gassed. Absolutely nothing left in the tank, but these Rotting Prometheans did pretty well. I think the issue was just taking very split fights with all of the Rotting Prometheans out here. There were like 3 separate blobs, and I don't really think that's how the Vampire Coast wants to play this matchup if they're going to go for this style of build. I do think having one back here, probably the Lamprey's Revenge on your home objective, with, you know, maybe a Depth Guard Polearm to sit on top of them with some, just a bunch of chaff to hold your home, while everything else goes to the contested objective is the way to go about it, because you have better cap weight as Vampire Coast. You need to get up and cap the objective first, because if, this is from experience, Vampire counts, if they get on an objective, despite having really bad cap weight on Skeleton Warriors and zombies and everything, once they've secured an objective, it's a lot harder to flip it away from them. because they know where they need to go, and they know where they can just sit and trade against you, and they play into blobs better than any other faction in the game besides maybe Nurgle. And then you're just kind of playing from behind. You don't want to give the vampire counts anything for free. Salostra here, still getting hit by Gaze into Gash, 2,800 value on Manfred. Really doing some nice work with him. Just bouncing around the battlefield. Mortis Engine leeching down these Depth Guard. Up to 1,900, 2,000 value there. Really nice. Vampire counts holding on to the number 3, holding on to the number 1. Triple cap territory. Nothing on the field, really, for the Vampire Coast at this stage of the game. Vargeist have been an absolute menace. Killing deck gunners. Killing some gunnery mobs, getting after these handgunners. All kinds of juicy, juicy targets on the field for them. And unfortunate for Huntress Himbo, doing pretty nicely. I mean, you can see just lots of value, but really not quite enough. And Silostra wasn't able to get it done. I like the Deeps casting, but I do think you kind of need heals here. Because Vampire counts, they're going to get really good use out of the Corpse Carts and the Mortis Engine. And their own invos. So I think you have to lean a little bit into that same style, just so you don't get just so you don't get ground into dirt like just happened here, because that's kind of what ended up being the case. You see the opening, it was good. I mean, weight is gonna help you hold on to those a lot better than the vampire counts are gonna be able to. It's the one situation I think where vampire counts are gonna be at a disadvantage fighting into a blob. But you really do need to have all those units together. But Kyrenade, really nice, 69 kills and 2,200 value. But you know, that's the less important number. All right. That's the Conquest Tournament. Here we go. Should be approaching the end here. Yeah, all round 3 is done. And 2 more round 4 games are playing out right now. The Real Kyle, Papa Dancer, Bongo, and Smelly Monkey are all playing. So as it stands right now, Random Cuban, Son of Heaven, they're very much in. Fabrosi on the edge here. On the edge here. Really good Swiss points from opponents. So good tiebreakers. And but sitting at 2 wins when one of your opponents is threatening to overlap you. Maybe not going to be able to get up over it. Because we've got Smelly Monkey and Real Kyle sitting here with the opportunity to each get a win and creep into the top 4 over him. So just holding breath here for Fabrosi and Zami. All right. Let's see. Random Cuban versus Surprise. Very cheeky name. Random Cuban. Very curious to see how this matchup plays out. Bringing a Grey Wizard, actually, instead of the Firecaster. Which I can see. You know, this guy's got Melkoths. There's lots of cavalry that the Greenskins do like to bring out. Does have some ranged pressure here with the Hergig Jaeger Corps and another Hochland Long Rifle, it looks like. Or actually, that's the Arwar Nuln Ironsides. Yeah? I don't know, it is the Hergig Jaeger Corps. Never mind. I got really excited for a second. I thought there were some Nuln Ironsides out here for a second. I don't think they have a Arwar, though. So I don't know where I'm getting that from. Squig Herds, Grimgor on the field. Grimgor is a lot better now than he used to be. He's got 7,000 freaking HP now. He's got some pretty good abilities too. You're next, get Snick, stand your ground, best of the best. You can't really land with a Lord character and try and go after him. He's just gonna win the fight. I mean, he beats just about everybody in melee combat at this point. This tree line here too. They can definitely get up in here and do some really nasty damage to some select targets, I'm sure. Orc Shaman with Brain Bursta and Fist of Gork, and Savage Orcs taking some serious damage from the Hergig Jaeger Corps. Who look to be more intense on getting after the Broken Tusk mob. Now that they've crept up, they've got some really good lines of fire here. They're covering the entire middle objective, so that's pretty good positioning from Random Cuban. It's kind of how you want to play with missile units of this type. You just want to lock down one objective with a good line and play out of your box and then try and control, one other objective while every now and then pressuring your opponent on their own objective. But Greenskins aren't really holding much of anything right now. They're actually completely capped out. The number one barely being held by the Empire here. Really nice for them. Bringing out some Empire Knights, Spearmen. They're engaging the Savage Orcs here and the Broken Tusk mob. Going right up the pipe and just getting punished hard by the focused fire from the Hergig Jaeger Corps and the Hochland Long Rifles. Pushing them all the way back, and a great Penumbral Pendulum coming in there. Getting all these Savage Orcs doing really nicely there. But Boris Todbringer gets beaten up a little bit by Grimgor. Grimgor getting in there with Gitsnick and popping your next. Really putting the moves on him. But Boris is durable. He's just popping back up in the air. He really should just hang out up top here and heal up. Maybe go after the Black Orc Big Boss instead. This guy doesn't have AP. He is a really good fighter, but Boris would be able to deal with him a little bit better than going after Grimgor. And Grimgor does get right after Old Toddy here yet again, going right onto him. But getting buffered out a little bit by the Empire Knights. And Empire pushing fully past the Greenskin front line, which has just been completely shredded. Hergig Jaeger Corps and all of the archers here doing some pretty good work, doing just enough to give the Empire a bit of a win in the front line, where they really typically don't do too well against the Greenskins. But Orc Boys and Savage Orc Boys, everything kind of running for the hills right now. And Empire Knights definitely in a position where they can start thinking about maybe getting after the Rusty Airs and the Orc Air Boys here at some point in the late game. Stone Trolls maneuvering out onto the field, looking to go support their brothers in arms. Some Savage Orcs do get terrified and are routing, as well as the poor Orc Shaman out here. Boris can deal with that Orc Shaman really nicely. Getting rid of the magic for the Greenskins here would be really good for the Empire. It would give them just another leg up here. And the Greenskins, not too terribly far behind in terms of damage value, but a lot of very beat-up units. And really struggling to find an opportunity to trade efficiently here against the mobility. But finally getting a good isolation on these Empire Knights with some Biggins and the Stone Trolls. Stone Trolls do unfortunately break, though. That leadership really playing havoc with those guys. And, I'm sure if Boris Todbringer wanted to, he could probably just fly over the top and chase these guys off at this point. I honestly don't think that's really a bad idea at all. But does look like he wants to shut down the Air Boys here. A really nice Penumbral Pendulum coming in, absolutely mulching through the remainder of these guys' health, putting them down to a routing position. And Boris is going to be able to follow this up pretty nicely here. Does need to stay out of the clutches of the Orc Boar Boy Biggins. I'm just going to call them Borks from now on. I'm not going through the whole mouthful that their name entails. So, Borks looking to get active again here. They've got some targets for sure. They could just chase off these Pistoliers and get after these Empire Knights. Do honestly think that the aggression here is the right way to go. There's not a tremendous number of Empire Heavy Cavalry on the field to protect their missile line right now. And still very worth getting after the Hochland Long Rifles and the Jaeger Corps back here. Definitely have a chance to get some really good work done if they go after those guys. Archers getting some good shots in here, doing a little bit of damage. And looks like the Greenskins, I feel like you could have played that out. It's not the best position to be in, but I think you still have a little bit of something to work with here. You've got two good combat characters on the middle. Just saying screwing your missile line and going in to deal with those Hochland Long Rifles would be the best chance to get back in that one, but it's kind of difficult. It would be very challenging to grind back that value. So Random Cuban, man, has been very dominant today. We think we've watched all of his matches. And really the only one where he played a pretty tight match was against Fabrosi. And even there, was able to focus fire with the Hammer of the Witches really nicely to deal with some of these very scary monsters out here. Alright, guys. Looks like we're getting down to the last game here, potentially, before the top four. Real Kyle and Papa Dancer playing it out, maybe? Yeah, just waiting to see the outcome of this last game here. As it stands right now, the SFT points are kind of looking like this. Move you back over. Zoom in a little so you can see. Random Cuban, Son of Heaven, Smelly Monkey, Fabrosi, as of right now, sitting at the number 4 spot with 2 wins and the 10 op points. But, you know, at Real Kyle has a really good opportunity here to take a win and get up over Zami and Fabrosi here to end up in the semis. I would like to see Kyle make it into the top 4. I'm just going to be openly biased about it. I'm always going to support fellow Corn players. Just barely lost out to Stelios earlier. And definitely has some good chops on the Blood God, but we'll see how he does in the semis if he makes it. Oh man, we got a Tomb Kings versus Vampire Coast showdown here that someone has sent me to, which I think would definitely be worth checking out. Man. This is an interesting Tomb Kings build. Going up against Vampire Counts, is that really going to be be the way. I'm so interested to watch this. I just want to. I'm just waiting to see if they're finishing up this last game or not right now. Because I would like to. I don't want to hold up semis and finals at all. But I also do really want to show off this Tomb Kings match. Because, I mean, we got triple skeleton archer chariot, double screaming skull catapult, and a bunch of Nehekara wars with High Queen Kalita of all people. Not that Kalita is bad, but I mean, when I think of the Tomb Kings right now, I'm just thinking about Cetra on the Kymrian War Sphinx, which is really disgusting currently with its impact damage. Just to show it off for a sec. I mean, you get a really good caster and duelist type character. I don't really need the items and abilities per se. Wrath of Petra is useful on occasion, but iffy overall. I think getting him down to $24.95 on the price is a lot better. And, I mean, he's got 10,000 health on this thing, and he's got some pretty good heals. Oh, yeah, give him Usirians. Usirians is really nice for damage. Just a more powerful Melkoths, basically. Just longer duration and the same amount of damage with the speed reduction. Brutal spell. Really nice for the Tomb Kings to have. Used to be pretty terrible. Nobody used this for the longest time, but definitely has found a bit of a niche as of the last couple patches. And yeah, man. So I'm just a little shocked to see somebody other than Cetra. Is really what it comes down to, because he's so powerful right now. Now, High Queen Kalita is a really good duelist. She's got crazy melee attack and melee defense, but she's not too good at clearing chaff in infantry, which is typically what Tomb Kings need help doing. Tomb Kings have really good anti-SE tools, but this build really doesn't have too many of them, so I'd be curious to see how that plays out. Alright. No, looks like I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Damn internet's being funky. It's the first time in a hot minute that it's been like this, so I'm really sorry about that. It's very annoying, but oh, yeah, that's true. Glaive doesn't really do casters, so I guess Kalita is kind of the only option there for the Tomb Kings. It's so funny though. I mean, he's played Khorne for the longest time. And if you're gonna play a faction that doesn't, I mean, I don't know. I guess going for flavor is always fun. But you can bring the Tomb King. Tomb King has the Cimmerian War Sphinx as well, and isn't a caster. So I don't even, honestly, I don't even know what else this dude has. So expensive. Scorpion armor, Tomb Strike, Reanimate. I mean, My Will Be Done's pretty good. I don't think Reanimate's all that useful. Tomb Strike is pretty decent. It causes terror, maybe applicable in some matchups. Probably not in most, though. And Scorpion armor. I don't know. Don't worry about it, Zami. Dude, Gaze of Nagash is so nasty, and it's so unexpected. The first few times I went up against Scrambled Egg, and was bringing, like, Exalted Bloodletters and stuff to try and grind through the chaff, and he popped me with Gaze of Nagash. The amount of damage it does against even infantry units is just crazy. I was stunned too. Once you learn how strong it is, though, you can plan around it, because it's not as good against armor. It's still really strong, but there is a little bit of mitigation from armor. And the Vampire Coast versus Counts matchup is just difficult for Coast no matter what, I think. You don't have as good of healing. Your backline's really hard to protect. I did really like that Carronade, though. I really do feel like a Carronade with just, like a dedicated depth guard sitting on top of them. Like a halberd deckhand mob, and then a depth guard with the dual weapons is honestly a pretty worthwhile investment into, like, as being your only ranged. I think there's some actual teeth there, because I was kind of surprised at how well it was dealing with the Mortis engine. I know you didn't kill it, but I know that was mostly because the Carronade finally got shut down. And I did actually miss if the Carronade got killed by Gaze of Nagash or not. So please let me know, because I'm so curious. Vampire Counts just don't have a lot of people repping them, but I think they're low-key one of the better factions, honestly. I think they're just an example of an incredibly powerful faction that has a pretty limited roster that, I don't know, people just aren't paying attention to. They can do so many different things. They can test the air really well. They swarm very efficiently. They're not bad playing tall either. It's kind of really everything that you want to lean into for a top faction. Is you just want to be able to, like, take what you have and be able to, like, flex it out into a bunch of different options. Really, they've only got a handful of bad units on this roster. I mean, the Black Coach is kind of lackluster, and then Hex Wraiths are often bad. They do have a couple of matchups where they're applicable, but that's really about it. Everything else is either very viable or just outright good. I mean, Vargeists, the way Scrambled Egg plays these guys, I mean, it just brings tons of Cryptars and Vargeists and just wins with those more often than not. He sometimes mixes in a Blood Knight and, like, every now and then a Black Knight, but mostly it's just Cryptars and Vargeists, and that's really all you need. You can just roll around and just mulch through people. He also really likes bringing the Master Necromancer, which I really respect, and I've kind of come around on, because he's got the Scroll of Power, and he's got, just having one bound zombie summon, you might not think is super impactful, but what you can actually do is at the opening of games, you can, like, fly over your opponent's missile line, you raise dead to block up one missile unit, you fly over and use Lesser Raise Undead on another. And then you pop Scroll of Power and you summon a third, and you can shut down an entire missile line just doing that. And then you've got White Kings are just incredibly durable hero units with Scab's Graith, which is... I hesitate to say broken, but it is brutal. It is an incredibly powerful item. They're really cheap. They're kind of hard to kill. They've got good melee defense. They've got magical attacks. They've got good weapon strength. They've got 5,000 hit points on foot. Seriously, if you haven't played vampire counts, try them out at least once. Even if you don't stick with them or really connect with them, it's good to like learn them. Because when you run into those really high-level players who know how to play those guys, it gets really discouraging when you get dumpstered by them. And it can be really hard to learn how to play against them for that very reason, because you don't have that many opportunities to compete against them. Okay. Hell yes, finally. Alright, so we've got Random Cuban, Son of Heaven. Let me actually show y'all too. I'm working on it here today. Son of Heaven, Smelly Monkey, and At the Real Kyle. All being our top 4 semi-finalists here today. And I better start asking folks for codes. Alright, we're going to do Real Kyle, and who is he playing? Have we finalized the top 4 yet? Yeah, so the thing with counting buys test... The issue with it is, oh, come on. Okay, we're back. Apologies for the occasional issues with the stream. I don't know why it's doing this. It's been months since I've had a problem with my internet, but... you know, it's America. ISPs are so nice here. But yeah. So, test. To answer your question first, the way that the tournament buys work, sometimes it does count it, sometimes it doesn't. Oftentimes, the admins have to go in and manually adjust those so that people actually get their buys counted. It's very annoying. It's very frustrating, but Turin and his friend who designed the website, who designed Total Tavern, are working on that, and they're trying to find an answer to it. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Oh, Vargeist got it. Vargeist are so scary. They're such a strong unit. They're so fast, and they hit so hard. So, I really can't blame you for getting jumped on by those things. And there's not really a good way to answer those as Vampire Coast. You can bring a Terrorgeist, but that's a lot of gold to commit to. First practice queue with Lizardmen, and I ran into Via on High Elves and got rolled. Yeah, I've been there. I've, look, you just gotta take your lumps in this game, and it sucks for a long time until you really, like, learn the nitty-gritty of the factions that you're playing. So that's why I tell people, just, like, play everything a couple times, find what you connect with, play that more, and then keep narrowing down until you've got, like, a main faction, and then find, like, 2 or 3 others that you can, like, really focus in on and get good with. Like, Khorne is my number 1 every time, always. Always is gonna be. I don't know why I connect with them so much, but I do. Then I like Beastmen and Tomb Kings. That's like my genuine selection as my favorites and what I usually roll with in tournaments. So it just takes time to figure that out, though, and then you just refine your gameplay style, and you look in and you like go in and just like lab stuff out. Like go in and test units one-on-one and units in like supporting situations to kind of get a good idea and flow of how your factions can win certain matchups and how well they do in specific situations. And that's also a really good way of getting better. Because game knowledge in this game is king. That is super important for being able to take tourneys. It's probably the number one way, in my opinion. Like, micro is great and all, but being able to make the right decisions and not putting yourself in a bad situation just starting off in a match is more important, in my opinion. How do you like lizards, anyways, Zamy? I know that you've played a lot of them. So watching you play Coast today was kind of fun, honestly. You're the you're the one who showed me feral troglodons and all the shenanigans they can pull off. Because I remember you were playing against Bretonia or somebody like that, and you were using the feral troglodons to like snipe the characters out, which was really funny to watch. I would have never thought that they'd be so good at that. I got these damn beginning of winter sniffles. It's so frustrating. I swear. Every single winter. It's like the first couple weeks once it like gets cold consistently. I can't get over it, but then I adjust, I guess, and then I'm fine after that, but winter is my time of year. It's when I thrive. I cannot do shit in the heat. I just get lethargic, and I just want to go lie down and just sleep. And then it hits winter, and I'm just, like, up and about. Alright. Let's see it, Kyle. Okay. Let's get away so we don't give anything up. Oh no, no. Oh, corn into vampire counts. We'll see if Kyle's able to pull it off here. For those of y'all who have been sticking around for a while now, you are probably aware that I was game planning this very matchup for quite a while. I think it's low key one of the tougher matchups in the game right now. I mean, I think Khorne can play pretty evenly with most factions, and I don't think this is unwinnable by any means, but I think against really experienced Vampire Counts players, it's really rough. I think that Khorne is even at best against vampire counts. And I honestly think it's more like a 60-40 matchup for them, truthfully. Vampire counts just have so many good tools for clearing demon units, and Khorne does not have the shooting to deal with corpse carts and mortis engines well. So you really rely on your like combat characters and lords to do a lot of that work, and that can get really dicey because vampire counts also have pretty good. What? Hello? What is going on here? Oh my goodness. Okay. Huh. Okay, I got booted from the lobby and now I can't rejoin for some reason, so give me a sec. It was very, very confusing. We're having our patented lobby moments here. Alright, we're back in it. Maybe we'll be alright. I'm gonna flip y'all away for a moment. Boom. Here. Hey, Test. Rough week for me. Lost against first and second on Swiss points. Don't think I've won a game against Empire or Chaos Dwarves. Those are pretty tricky factions to fight. What's the thing that you're struggling with on them? Because oftentimes when you're really struggling against specific factions, it's sometimes it's just that your faction has really bad matchups against them, but sometimes it can just be like a mental block kind of deal where you're just not sure what you're trying to do and you don't trust yourself enough to like put your plans into action. But I'd be willing to help you out with some advice if I feel like I'm qualified enough to give it. It depends on who you're playing against, those two specific factions. Hell yes. I need to put my own bounty out, man. I want to watch a damn Vampire Counts player bring double black coach and win a game. I need to we need to all figure out collectively what somebody would win for being able to pull that off. Because honestly, I don't even think black coach is like a bad unit. I just don't think it's very good per se. Like, it's got all these cool, like, abilities that it gets as it gets kills and stuff. Which is honestly something I would like to see more of. I feel like Khorne could really use some of that. Like, marks of the Blood God's favor for performing well in combat, I think would be really cool on some of the more elite units. Because you got, like, the Exalted Bloodletters who have Hellblade, which gives them, like, more weapon strength when they get over a certain number of kills. Seeing more stuff like that on Khorne's roster would be awesome. And I think it would, like, help flesh the faction out a little bit more, because, I mean, otherwise you're really talking about a faction that's kind of limited in what it does, and can be a little bit boring. Not boring in, like the sense that they're not, like, interesting to, like, play as or play against, but boring in the sense that there's just, like, a very specific way things are done, and there's not a lot of flexibility outside of that. You know. Just IMO, I think it would be really nice for some flavor. Alright. Welcome back. And we're kicking it off here with the first of our semifinals matches. Kyle here on Khorne. And then we've got a showdown against the Vampire Counts. And some interesting spell choice here. Curse of Years actually coming out, which I really don't hate. It's a pretty good spell. And it does increase cooldowns on units, so it'd actually be pretty good to pop on the Cultist and Valkia, just to like frustrate using Sloutnir and the Bloodletter summon and stuff like that. We'll see what effect we can get out of that in this match. Dried Floodplain is going to be our battlefield of choice. We've got a gigantic orc stronghold on either side. Just chilling here. Really cool buildings. There's a lot of really unique like building models in this game that I appreciate immensely. But yeah. Dak Ninja's got the White King, Corpse Cart with the Lodestone, Red Duke up in the sky, Crypt Horrors, Graveguard, lots of zombies, lots of health, lots of Crypt Horrors. Some Graveguard out here on the edge. So, very nicely symmetrical army. Probably going to summon out another Corpse Cart in the first summon. Potentially, we'll see. That is often what Vampire Counts players do. The Cultists are here. Exalted Bloodletters and the Chosen. Just getting positioned up. Not 100% sure where they'll be going in the battle line, but definitely gearing up for a big brawl. And I'm super excited to show off the Chosen. We'll see how they do. I'd have brought two, but I do like mixing in an Exalted Bloodletter in the opening. They're just really good. We'll see how they do, though. Some Marauder Horsemen with the throwing axes. Gonna jump out, probably cap up 2 objectives nice and early. You know, that is something that can be very important against Vampire Counts, is capping objectives early. You really don't want to give them any, like, free tickets. They are just painful to remove from objectives at times. So not giving them any room to just get them for free is pretty important. Some Furies coming out to help Valkia up in the sky. She is going up against the Red Duke here, and as I said, Curse of Years is here. Minus speed and melee attack. He's got Swarm of Flies, too, on that big dragon. A little passive ability that doesn't really get a lot of attention, but is a pretty nice little debuff in an aura. Invo, Pestilent Breath, Elsif. Elsif is a great ability. It's so strong. I mean, it really turns the Red Duke into just a nasty anti-character tool. Can be especially devastating to Valkia, since she doesn't have any innate Phys Res. She's just 40% more vulnerable outright to the Red Duke, who's got really good weapon strength. It lowers melee defense also, and it'd take her down to 15, so she needs to be very careful here. Fury's landing very aggressively on Skeleton Warriors. I'm very curious to see how they do there. Probably going to get a lot of damage done, but definitely can't stay in that combat for long. And yeah, man, Dak Ninja jumping right on top of these throwing axes. You have to protect these guys. And the Cultist is getting very aggressive down in here in the pit. Getting surrounded by Cryptors right now, and the White King going after him too. White Kings do have a bonus versus infantry, and they're very good at fighting Cultists. Cultist needs to get out of there. But these Furies are actually doing nicely, and they're holding up a lot of chaff that the Vampire Counts really do need kind of desperately to protect their Cryptors. But pretty good damage in the early going here from Dak Ninja, doing a very nice job of really working on this Cultist, who's taken quite a pounding. Needs to play very safely with this guy so he can get the summon off. Also can do some pretty good work elsewise with what little health remains. It does hit really hard. This is just a very capable fighter, but cannot lose him here. Cannot lose him here. Chosen of Khorne moving down to the middle objective here. And Khorne does have the number 2 and the number 1 here, so getting a little bit of a ticket lead, but lots of Marauders getting beat up by the Red Duke right now. Minotaurs coming out. Minotaurs fighting against the Cryptors and the Red Duke, getting some good damage done. Furies could definitely just pile in here, go right after these Cryptors. They're so isolated right now. Zombies and Graveguard are very out of position from them. The Minotaurs are doing really nice damage, and the Cryptors are having some trouble getting away right now. Definitely need to keep the pressure up there. We do have Bloodletter summon being used here, and a really good Horn of Khorne buffing up all of the units in this gigantic blob here. And there's really nothing to punish this blob right now, so definitely need to keep the pressure up. As I say that, a really good breath attack coming in there, hitting the Exalted Bloodletters and the Marauders, doing a lot of damage to them. Man, this Bloodletter summon is getting absolutely handled right now. My god, they're taking a lot of damage. Do have the Minotaurs piling in there, and these Chosen need to get into combat now, man. Just send them in. These guys can actually probably kill all of the units on this objective, or get up and around maybe. Just definitely need to be aggressive with those guys. They really are needed to tear through the balance of the chaff, so that the Cryptors and White Kings, Red Duke, Vargeist, and all these other units don't have anywhere safe to land. And Fellbats, man, getting in there, helping peel for the Vargeist, who are getting attacked by some Furies there. And man, oh man, this is starting to look really scary for Khorne. Did pretty okay in the early going, but it's getting real ugly. Vampire counts are starting to take a bit of a lead here, and you really don't want to be in that position where you're down in value against the Vampire counts. They just have so much healing. You've got to be up big. You got to be up big in order to really do good work against them, man. And the poor Marauders, leadership really not holding up. Valkia doing her best to try and grind some value out here. The Exalted Bloodletters are really not doing too hot either. They're struggling quite badly here against the very focused heals from the Red Duke, who's dropped some invos. Corpse Cart is getting worked on a bit, so that's a really good catch. These Minotaurs are doing really nicely for themselves. If you can get rid of this Corpse Cart, maybe you can start getting in a more dominant position. And look at the Chosen over here, man. Really doing nice damage to all of the targets over here. There is no corpse cart. There are some invos going down, but the Vargeist are getting beat up pretty badly by these Furies. Furies came in, and just one of them killed a Fellbat, did a lot of damage to these Vargeist, and now they're on top of them again, mitigating a lot of the healing that they're getting, but more importantly, giving the Chosen a lot of free space to grind through the Graveguard and the zombies, getting in on top of the Cryptars as well, getting those flaming attacks on top of these guys, and chewing through them and mitigating that regen that they're very reliant on is really nice. And a Sword of Corn coming in, gonna kill all of the remaining chaff here for sure. Devastating use there. And Kyle is actually kind of pulling it back here. Was down. It was looking really scary. All but Valkia is so low here. Cannot lose your Lord. Losing Valkia here would be devastating. I think it would probably, I don't know, man. It might put you down enough to where you are not going to be able to maintain your pressure on the objectives. Marauders doing some good work, throwing Horsemen in really nice positions here, getting a lot of value, man. And this is a perfect position for them to sit in. They've got a little bit of buffering here so that the Graveguard and zombies can't get on them. Furies are locking a lot of attention up in the sky with the Vargeist and Fellbats not able to get on top of them. Valkia, unfortunately, going down here, and the Red Duke, uncontested at this stage of the game, could start getting really bad. Chosen hanging in there with 13 leadership. Not paying for themselves, unfortunately, and don't know if they're going to be able to grind the rest of this fight out here. Maybe with that good leadership, without losing Valkia, they could stay in here and continue fighting, but you can see all of the leadership debuffing effects popping all at once now that their frenzy is off. Frightened, attacked, and rear melee contact. What is... I don't know why the hell a Coronate warrior would be worried about being in melee contact, but I guess being in a really bad fight might give you some pause. Red Duke landing here, getting after the cultist, absolutely smashing him up, and another Curse of Years getting popped, doing a lot of mitigation to the melee attack. Not going to be landing a lot of hits now. It lasts for quite a while, too. How long? 30 seconds, I believe, is the duration on it. And I actually have to look at the tooltip. Yeah, 32 seconds. Pretty juicy debuff, man. Khorne does not like debuff magic. There's nothing you can do against it. Your unit's spell resistance is just completely circumvented by that, so that's pretty painful. We do have Marauders intercepting skeleton spears and zombies. That's a really good call. Definitely need to keep that up. Very close game, and Khorne does have a bit of a lead there. Some Bloodletters coming out and helping out these Minotaurs with 2,800 value on these Minos, dude. One Minotaur unit coming in absolutely clutch right now, just mulching through multiple waves of killing a corpse cart, killing some crypt horrors, all kinds of different units suffering under the weight of those big AP attacks that they have. And Red Duke doing his best to try and help out his very isolated and tattered units. But another Sword of Corn comes in and obliterates this skeleton spear here. And this is what you want to do with those Khorne army abilities. Just absolutely take full advantage of the chaff that you've killed. Get in and fully overwhelm your opponent. And, man, the vampire counts, not out of this game, but I don't know if they're going to have enough cap weight on the ground to be able to take any of these objectives. There are a lot of very rough and tumble looking Khornate units on the field right now. But, I don't know. I really don't know. The Marauder Horsemen are going to be really good against these Skeleton Warriors. They're going to do pretty good work against zombies, too. They're going to struggle against Crypt Horrors, and the Crypt Horrors might be the saving grace of the Vampire counts here in the late game. As well as the Red Duke, if he can just keep getting around the battlefield and landing on top of all these units and continue to do good damage against them. Chosen get on top of this Corpse Cart. If they can kill this Corpse Cart, that might actually be a clutch moment. You can see how much damage they're doing. It's got terrible stats, And like I said, they've got the flaming attacks, and it does have the weakness to fire from the regen, so they might actually kill this in no time at all. Look how quickly they're chipping it down, man. Little bit of lag here, but that's fine, giving me an opportunity to just maneuver over the battlefield and keep an eye on everything. Fleshhound's in a pretty rough fight right now. They definitely need some help. I would try and pull these guys out. Really good use of the Horn of Corn to just pop on top of the Curse of Years being used, just so that, yeah, you're not getting any benefit out of that, but at least your units are able to actually do a little bit of damage instead of just fully suffering through it. Zombies getting charged down. The triple cap is still on, and they did kill the corpse cart before the direwolves could get in here, and I think the Chosen might be able to kill these direwolves too. Their leadership is somehow holding. That minus 16 no longer coming into full effect. They're not really being rear charged quite yet. As I say that, though, the Red Duke does push past, gets on top of them. How the hell are these Minotaurs still here? 3,300 value on these guys. The Chosen finally paying for themselves, doing great work, killing that corpse cart. The direwolves are going to get wrecked by the Fleshhounds here, and the remains of this Bloodletter unit still here with 35 models. The number one objective completely uncontested right now. There are some Crypt Ghouls going out there to try and cap it up. Kyle has about 1,000 gold in the bank, and Dak Ninja is really gassed on supplies right now. Korn looks to be in a pretty dominant position, holding on to this number 2 objective in the middle here. Not relinquishing any pressure right now. Unsummon these Chosen here. Really need to make sure to do that. Some Furies coming out. Not a bad summon. Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think bringing those guys out is the right tool in this situation. Having something that can maneuver quickly around the battlefield and get after these squishy, low armor undead units, man. Doing a really good job of stopping up reinforcements with the throwing axes, who are just absolutely hounding down skeleton warriors and zombies, doing really good damage to them. Look how much value this horseman has gotten. At the real Kyle, man, coming in huge for Korn so far. Is he going to be able to close this game out? Bloodletters get nailed by Pestilent Breath right there. Take a lot of really nasty damage, and I think it might be time to think about giving up the middle objective and going to focus in on holding the 2 outer objectives. God, you've got to hold on to this number 1 objective here. You've got to hold on to the number 3 also. I think unsummoning the Minotaur here is the right call. And moving the Furies and the Fleshhounds out onto the number 1, I think, is the best thing to do for yourself. Marauder Horsemen look like they have spotted the Crypt Ghouls here. Think they're going to be going for a good rear charge onto them, and they're going to do really good impact damage. 36 charge bonus with the 40 weapon strength is going to be pretty vicious against these Crypt Ghouls. And the Crypt Ghouls look like they're gearing up to take the charge. They do turn about face, and they do get hammered quite badly, though, regardless. You know, they didn't get a counter charge off, so not really getting a lot of damage in on those guys in return. Fleshhounds, Bloodletters, and these Furies fighting desperately against all of the zombies and other chaff units here. Locking it down still on the number 2, man. Kyle is all out, man. All out right now trying to win this game. Definitely need to keep the pressure up on these Crypt Ghouls and just continue to grind out the triple cap that you're still holding on to. The chaff for the vampire accounts really not holding too well. Not having any durable cap weight in terms of infantry is really starting to weigh down this this blob here in the middle. I mean, there's really not that much here. You've got a couple of very tattered, one Fleshhound actually dissipating out, and the Fleshhounds of Korn here doing really nicely for themselves. Bloodletters and the Furies fighting. Not a lot of cap weight for Korn, but just enough to hold on to the number 2 for as long as they have. And the Minos in the very end here. 5 models left. Charging right into these zombies, having absolutely no fear. 3,400 value and counting on these guys. That's crazy. I haven't seen a Mino do that well in quite a while, so that's just perfect micro, honestly, on those guys. And the forces of the Blood God are going to be taking this match here. Beautifully played. Amazing. Red Duke not able to save his forces, unfortunately. Man, oh man. Pretty good value on the dual weapon Marauders. Not too bad. Some of them didn't do too hot, but two of these guys made up for the poor performance of the others. And the Chosen, 227 kills, 1,600 value. Good stuff, but I'm really impressed by the Marauder Horseman play and the Minotaur micro. Oh, man. Juicy stuff, man. Well played to our Corn champion. The Dark Gods are very proud this day. Alright, test. I don't think I've won a game. I've been playing Coast. Oh, yeah. Empire Cav just killed dogs and Mongols. The only thing you have against them is handgunners. That's true. And yeah, the Chaos Dowie infantry are really difficult to contend with. Yeah. So yeah, Fabrosi. I mean, I would just say that that's probably all down to the matchups then. That happens. Some factions, there's so many factions in the game, you're going to have bad matchups with somebody against, other factions that do similar things but have, more effective tools for what they are trying to do. Yeah, I agree. Coast artillery, really not that good. And I do agree. I don't think the counter battery is a battle worth taking. And you're going to lose a lot of presence on objectives because you're going to have to spread your forces out to protect all those cannons. Vampire Coasts don't push well. You need to be on the points. I think it's just a rough matchup against those two factions for the Coast. Coasts are really good against a lot of different factions, though. They can definitely do some really good work elsewhere. We can jump in here real quick. Oh, there we go. How do you beat Empire as, maybe you bring a Deathcaster with, Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, and try and do it that way. And just, Spirit Leech down Lord, and then, Fate of Buna, a couple cavalry units. Although I guess Noctilus is probably better for that, because he's got Melkoths. Got Moondial. Wraithstorm's pretty good against those. You can cut that. It's really expensive, is the only problem with this guy. Oh. Yeah, for Brosi, those are two really tough matchups. I think that Chaos Dowie and the Empire really probably just do have Coast's number. Don't know why they made first and second of the group stage play each other in semis. I don't know. I think it's fine. I know lots of people just like mixing it up with these tournaments, and I think that's a really good way of running them. Just doing things differently. so that just doesn't get stale. You know, I mean, we've got so long between DLCs and updates on this game that I think it's kind of necessary. You know, I like having tournaments where everything's allowed. I like having tournaments where there's like some limited restrictions. I think it just encourages people to do different stuff, and I think having the number 1 and 2 play one another just for the sake of interest and having like really competitive matches is probably why. Also, Total Tavern just sets games up weird sometimes. I don't know how it works. The back end of Total Tavern is kind of janky at times. It's a great website though, and I'm so thankful for Turin taking the time and effort to set it all up, because this is probably the best thing that's ever been done by somebody for the community, honestly. Like, because otherwise we're relying on CA to know what they're doing with the online play, and that's just not ever been a thing that they're good at. They're so bad at setting that infrastructure up. But I do think some of that has to do with Steam. Steam has terrible online play infrastructure. That's why a lot of games now are using the Epic Online services, even if you're playing something from Steam, is because it's a lot easier for those games to use the Epic service in order to more effectively run its multiplayer scenes. Because Steam is just not it. Steam is very poorly set up for that kind of a setup. I know that Space Marine 2 uses Epic Online services despite not being an Epic exclusive or anything like that. And it works pretty well, you know. It's not the most robust multiplayer, but it's more effectively done than CA's method of setting it up, which is just kind of throw shit at the wall and hope everything works out for the most part. So that's really the thing that I and a lot of other people want to see CA do differently for the next Total War game, is just get some kind of online multiplayer setup that makes some sense and doesn't put such a huge weight on the community to do things effectively. Because we've got guys like Chromo Sumo and Hitman Hippo, Waka and Medley, and all these people who have made all these amazing Total Tavern maps. And there are better CA maps now, but they're still not amazing. And the ones that they did implement from the Total Tavern pack, I don't really love the changes that they made to them. And I really wish that CA would just make a decision where they either really commit to making good maps for domination mode and the multiplayer community in general, and make what the community wants, or just give up completely and just pay the map creators for their maps and just put them in the game as is. Because then they're saving themselves the headache of trying to please everybody. But they have this very particular way of going about it that baffles me at times. As Coast, I struggle against Empire and Chaos Dowie, and Dwarves, Wood Elves, Dark Elves, every demon faction, and Grand Cathayan Tomb Kings, Bretts and Hiles. I mean, that makes sense. All the factions that have a mix of mobility and then decent front lines. Pretty good lord options. Wood Elves are scary for just about everybody right now. There are definitely some factions that have good matchups against Wood Elves. Wood Elves got a lot of guff just because they got so many buffs, a couple patches ago, and then They were just the Dark Lords for a while because, I mean, they got so many changes that people were trying to figure out what did and didn't work against them again. And they really got to profit because of that. But I think it's settled down enough now that Wood Elves are a little bit more even. And I feel like Coast has some decent enough shooting tools to do well in some circumstances against the Wood Elves. Probably really hard if it's a map that doesn't have a contested center objective. I feel like that's probably the best circumstance for the Vampire Coast, where they have a home objective and then a middle objective that they can really just push and sit on. Otherwise, I can see how having to play 3 objectives at all times really makes it difficult to effectively counter those really quick factions that you're talking about. And especially ones that also have really good shooting. Who plays Bretts now? I can't really think of a lot of people who are, like, Brett specialists. I'd really love to see them get played more, though. And I don't think they're bad. But, there's quite a few factions right now that are, just in a very, like, settled state in terms of meta. I feel like Bretts are one of them. Greenskins, Korn, to a certain extent. Tomb Kings. But, I don't necessarily think that's bad. But I do think that means that there's, 1 or 2 very strong ways of playing, like Empire and, Chaos Dowie, maybe not so much, but Tomb Kings, Empire, Nurgle, Kislev, yeah, and Norska and Bretonia, I think, are probably like the Dark Lords of just being a very specific type of build and strategy that doesn't leave a lot of room for experimentation, just because some of their units so wildly outperform others. Any faction with archers, it's bring and protect your mortars or lose. Yeah, I've kind of noticed that. Especially really long-ranged archers. But Wood Elf, the reason why I don't think Wood Elves are the worst for Coast is, at least... Okay, are we back? I think we are. Okay, I've returned, and we're not freaking out anymore right now. But what is going on here? I'm having so many freaking problems with the lobbies. A. Alright, thank you for persevering here with me today, guys. This is, I don't know what's been going on the last, like, hour and a half for the lobbies. It's so messy. Just getting, like, booted and dropping, but then coming back and the lobby is still up, and it's showing people is there when they're not. I don't know what the hell is happening. But alright, we've got Empire versus Khorne, another great matchup. Very even for both sides. Huge Empire army, oh my god. And a pretty small Khornate force, actually. We're going to be fighting it out on Proving Grounds. We've got the real Kyle, and we've got Random Cuban. Facing off against one another. Balthazar Gelt, and is this a... that's a light wizard, I believe. So, probably Net of Amontok and stuff like that on the table for the Empire forces. Khorne coming in with Valkia and Karanak. Very aggressive anti-hero squad. But Karanak might not have anything to do. If they're both on Pegasi, then Karanak's just gonna have to run around and, like, tie up missile units, probably. Oh no, they're both on... oh no, they're both on horseback. Oh no. Uh-oh. Oh man, and Balthazar Gelt's on foot. Oh, but he's just got the staff of Valons. Wow, this is a... okay, this is very strange. Shem's Burning Gaze and Net of Amontok. As somebody who has played against Tomb Kings, against a really good player who has brought the Light Caster with Khalida build against me, I can tell you from experience that Shem's Burning Gaze does not do anything to Khornate units. The spell resistance is pretty juicy, especially if you don't have a combat character to, like, follow up on the damage from Shems and then take advantage of your unit being netted. It's not going to be great, so I'm very curious to see how this spell casting works out here. I honestly think you would have been better off with Balthazar Gelt with, like, Searing Doom, because that's at least cheap, it does decent damage, and is spammable. Very worried for the Empire's casters here. They're going to be incredibly squishy to Karanak. I mean, Karanak is going to absolutely rip apart this Light Wizard in the right circumstance. Balthazar Gelt looks like... we'll see. Balthazar Gelt might be hiding somewhere. So... curious to see if the old Doggo and Valkia can snuff him out and get rid of him. Chaos Warriors with halberds, couple of Chaos Warriors, two of them taking one of the side objectives. The number 3 going to be contested by a Chaos Warrior and another halberd unit, man. Couple of throwing axes moving up to cap early.
Noble ideals, but they simply crave the glory of taking life.
Yeah, let's go, Valkia. So, Valkia is going to be pretty good here. She's not going to have, she's not going to really be super impactful in the character fight. But Valkia is very good at flying around, going after Empire Heavy Cavalry. She's very good against Demigryph Knights and the like. And should also be pretty decent at tying up missile units and just dropping Sleipnir. Sleipnir is insane against these really compact formations of spearmen and stuff. Something I really like to do is to find a weak point in the front line, drop a Sleipnir where you can hit a couple of like state trooper units, kill the balance of the unit off, depending on how injured they are, or just do a ton of damage to them, and then push through with all your infantry and get on top of the missiles that way. It's I find that to be pretty effective. These throwing axes need to be real careful screaming up through the middle here. No, don't stop! Oh, keep going! You're gonna get killed there! No! Very lucky that the huntsmen and the archers haven't just stopped and just unloaded hot loads onto these guys here. And Valky is just going right out to the backfield, but great swords get summoned out to protect Balthazar Gelt. We've got some flesh hounds. They're getting shot up a little bit. I don't think you really need to go after Balthazar Gelt per se, but it'd be nice to get him, but not super necessary. And doing a really good job here of capping the these very open objectives here. The number 3 and the number 1 held pretty securely by Khorne. Get out of here with the horsemen. Just taking free damage here on the throwing axes. Pretty painful. You really don't want to just leave these guys to get shot up. They're pretty important, and a net of Ammontok going down, and now he's going to lose another one here. That sucks. That's really painful. Valkia is looking for a way in, but you don't need to engage here. Do not engage this. There's just no reason to go after it here. Empire's playing very passively in the middle, and you're winning out here on the flank. Your halberds just smashed these spearmen into oblivion with Karanak's help. You've got your Chaos Warriors. They've moved up onto halberds, spearmen, Free Company Militia, all the things that they really do want to fight. Just don't play into these missiles here. You can do a lot more playing this split push style, honestly. Fleshhounds, looking for an opportunity to get in here. There are some Empire Knights. They have hammered home into the Chaos Warriors. But Chaos Warriors with their armor and good melee attack and melee defense are going to put up quite a fight. Empire Knights do not win against Chaos Warriors. Even with good cycle charging, it just takes so long to get through these guys. So, just staying persistent and cycle charging here with the Fleshhounds is going to continue to get some good value for the forces of the Blood God. And now, maybe now that your opponent has really started to split up the forces here, maybe you can start thinking about trying to push in the middle. But just continue to reinforce the number 3 here, I think is a pretty good idea. I like the movement on the Chaos Warriors here, looking to get up into the backfield and loop around and get onto the rear of the missile units, because once you're doing that, you know, you've got swordsmen that are repositioning, and you're thinning out the front line without having to actually fight anything. And then you can just feed up quick units from the deploy zones right onto your opponent. And a really nice use of Demon Shield while you're netted there. We've got Furies. One Fury did get massacred on the way in, but this other one gets in on the Archers and the Huntsmen. And now that they're here in combat, it's going to be kind of hard to shoot them off. They're going to not... a lot of the units are going to be obstructed. They're going to have a hard time firing in. They are layering fire a little bit, but one archer going down, Huntsmen starting to suffer, and the Chaos Warriors all this time, all this while, are pushing around pretty freely, while the other one takes a good fight here against a Halberdier and a Spearman. How are we looking at Sloupners? There's one Sloupner left. This is a perfect Sloupner right there. That's where I would be looking to hit it. We've got the Knights of the Black Rose out here. They're going to do a lot better against the Chaos Warriors of Khorne, but man, these Khorne Warriors, up to 800 value just about. Just keep them in here, grinding against these Halberds and the Spearmen. Fleshhounds and Hounds of the Blood Hunt doing pretty decently. Karanak, not getting a tremendous amount of value, but doing decently for himself, helping out quite a bit. More Furies up in the sky here. Some Warhounds as well, but the Warhounds are going to get flattened by the Knights of the Black Rose, who are all over these guys. Hounds of the Blood Hunt helping out, though. And a fat sword, man. Landing on top of the great swords, doing tons of damage to the halberds and the spears. And the halberds here, Khorne halberds held for quite a while, but not quite able to make it happen. The Chaos Warriors do get intercepted by Knights of the Black Rose, but the Light Wizard's kind of running away, and a decent Sloupner here, hitting the Archers and the Huntsmen, doing a decent amount of damage to these guys. It's so close. There's no healing, so Khorne isn't down in value beyond the 800 off that they are.
One of your units has been destroyed.
Another thing that is really worth knowing and remembering is how good Marauder Horsemen are at going after infantry targets. They're pretty tattered right now, which is why keeping them healthy is really important. But they can get full-on, like, complete army breaks on Empire forces with how good they are in melee combat, actually. They're going to struggle here. The Light Wizard, just hovering around out here. I don't know what broke him, leadership-wise. That was very strange. He just suddenly panicked and started running. But Khorne has lost the number 3 objective here, unfortunately. All of the infantry and capweight pushing off, kind of, while the Knights of the Black Rose just kind of capped the number 3 for free. But the Empire is looking very depleted over here. And getting, a couple Marauders just like this up and fully securing that number 3 objective is going to be really nice. And the Khorne Warriors here losing this fight, but they've done pretty decently for themselves despite being in a really awful position. I mean, they're completely surrounded, and they've still gotten about 550 value, and they've still got some room to go. As long as you've got Valkia alive and on the battlefield so that your leadership doesn't just completely collapse on you, you should be in a pretty decent position. Valkia is doing a very good job of killing Knights of the Black Rose right now with some Fury support. The Furies don't super want to fight those guys, but they are not in the worst position in the world. They've gotten their value back. They're doing pretty decently. And can definitely just go in on some of these archers and huntsmen. And a lot of the Empire shooting is routing now. And the halberd that was on the number 1 objective here has moved across now and is pushed right up onto the number 2. And they might be able to just completely sweep this objective now. They can get on the huntsman here. Another Sword of Khorne coming in, going to kill the swordsman and the spearman here if they don't move out of the way in time, completely obliterating these 2 units. This is the hazard of going really wide against Khorne. Khorne doesn't mind playing wide factions at all. It can be very difficult if the shooting is really overwhelming, but a lot of these are just archers and huntsmen who, I mean, it's value without taking damage, yeah, but the issue is that a lot of it is just not very heavily AP-centric. So the really heavily armored Chaos Warriors are just getting to waddle into melee combat and just trade and hold up the Empire's reinforcements for days here. These throwing axes, they got beat up early, but they've gotten some pretty good value just throwing in here passively over the course of the game. Karanak has been an absolute nightmare. 100 kills on him. And just scaring the hell out of all of the Empire troopers here. He does cause fear, so he's lowering all of their leadership, and these huntsmen might break here and run. There's really nothing to threaten him. They're going to have to commit something serious to try and lock him down. The Empire does manage to retake the number 3. Tickets are really close. Value is close. Khorne is in a pretty good position here, in my opinion. Hounds of the Blood Hunt, I could definitely pull out of here and loop around onto the Free Company Militia. Really good collapse onto the Furies with the Empire Knights. Furies going down here is very painful. They did some pretty good damage against the Greatswords and the Halberds, and Valkia doesn't want to stay and fight Greatswords, but she's got enough buffering to do well for herself. The Marauders, though, are going to really struggle here. They're going to have to find some help from somebody to secure a win here, because the Greatswords, not the best melee infantry unit in the game, but they're more than a match for the Khornate Marauders. And they are holding the objective nicely. More Furies coming out. Probably need more infantry here for Khorne. These halberds are in a really nice spot. Getting some good value. They have ground through an archer unit. They're killing halberds and swordsmen right now. No fear from these guys being fully surrounded. These Chaos Warriors that were holding, here they are. 10 guys left. Pretty much paid for themselves. I mean, they're an 800 gold unit, so that's really nice for Khorne. Chaos Warhounds coming in to help clean up some archers. Furies here. Number 2 being secured away from the Empire. We've got an Empire Knight out here on the edge of the battlefield that could get up on that number 1 and maybe start to put a little bit more pressure on the Khornate forces and their ability to hold objectives right now. Poor Fleshhounds out here getting shot to death and poked down by Spearmen. Big loss there. It's a very expensive unit that you really need to get some good value out of. Fleshhounds, people I think are kind of overestimating how good they are. They are very powerful units, but they're quite squishy. They don't have a ton of armor. Their leadership is dependable, but if they get rear charged and they start to dissipate, you're feeding a lot of value to your opponent. Furies up in the sky. Need to stay up in the sky so they don't get killed by these Empire Knights. They need to be flying around, providing, providing harassment against the few remaining Empire missiles, and they're pretty good at killing Spearmen too, so they could definitely be doing a little bit of that. Karanak in the trees here, unfortunately about to go down to 800 health, fighting against these Knights of the Black Rose. Been doing some good damage to them, though, and he's been shutting down quite a few units. Valkia is actually going toe-to-toe against the Greatswords here and winning. Chipping through these guys 2 or 3 at a time. Oh my god, coming down on top of them with the spear and actually breaks the leadership on those Greatswords. And without those Greatswords to anchor this point, the Marauders are really going to be in a pretty nice position here. Probably should unsummon these two guys. You're going to need some cheap, dependable cap weight for later in the game. Hounds of the Blood Hunt out here doing some really good work, getting some pretty good value. 1,300, 163 kills. Valkia and the Furies here doing really nicely for themselves also. Definitely going to be able to sweep up these Spearmen. And killing all of this Empire chaff is going to keep giving army abilities to Khorne, keeping them very competitive into the late game. Whereas, I do believe that all the nets and Shem's Burning Gaze is pretty much off the table at this point for the Empire. So the Empire is going to be gassed on, like, difference-making abilities, while Khorne probably going to still be able to get some really good casts off of, like, Horn, maybe Relentless Rage here and there. God forbid another Sword of Khorne comes in. We've seen 2 pretty devastating uses out of it so far, which have really, really hurt the Empire here. Man, these halberds. Half health, been fighting all freaking game now. And they're still here in the middle, locking it in. They're barely hanging on to this objective right now. Definitely need to get the horsemen out of here and get them into a position where they can get support from the Hounds of the Blood Hunt, probably, would be a really good call. Looks like there is still a net of Amantok on the table. Does lock in these Marauder Horsemen, and they are not going to be able to escape from these Empire Knights now. But the Furies and Valkia do land on top of the Free Company Militia. They are absolutely shredding these guys. I mean, very lightly armored. And their missiles are pretty useful, but the issue is once they get locked down by Furies, Khorne Furies have some of the best DPS of these type of flying skirmish units. You can see how well they're doing for themselves right there. Ripping those guys apart, and the Shem's Burning Gaze doing more friendly fire to the archers than to Valkia here. And Valkia continuing to fight all game. Still 3,400 HP, a little bit more than half, and she's tearing through these archers now. She's going to continue to provide some good value there. The number 1 is secured by the Empire, though. And, oh man, is it triple cap territory for the Empire? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, man. These Empire Knights would be coming in so clutch right now. I think that the Empire might be able to win it here. I think they've withstood the worst that Khorne has to offer. The throwing axes out here and the Warhounds, as well as the Hounds of the Blood Hunt, being the most dangerous units out here on the field still. Some Chaos Warriors coming out of the spawn, looking to move up and hold on to this number 3 objective. And it's too close for me to call. I'm not going to do the math. We're just going to have to see if Khorne is going to win on one objective. And what's going to end up happening here, Knights of the Black Rose on top of Valkia. Does pop Relentless Rage, so she doesn't break from the rear charge. Knights of the Black Rose, good job of maneuvering those guys around and getting on top of these Chaos Warhounds. Getting some good damage on those guys as they're going in. And, man, Valkia still continuing to go at it. 1,500 value from her. She's got plenty left to give. She can't fight here in the backfield, though, at this point, I think. Keeping her with her forces on the number 3 is probably the best thing you can do here. And Empire with pretty overwhelming numbers at this stage of the game. And Khorne really needing a little bit of mobility out on the field now. Something. We do get some halberds coming out. It's going to take them a long time to get here. And, man, oh man, I think Khorne might win this. They have to hold on to the objective, though. Doing a good job of fighting off of it. These Marauder Horsemen, don't run away with them. Just keep them there. They need to stay there. They don't need to run away. Very scary. Empire needs to be moving everything onto the number 3 here. I understand wanting to defend objectives, but way too much committed over here. Archers, Free Company Militia, Spearmen. You could just leave the Spearmen in the Free Company and use the Archers to maneuver over. The cap weight, the Chaos Warriors do manage to get up here just in time, I would say, to start applying some holding power to this number 3 objective. And the Empire is going to be falling to the forces of Khorne here, and the real Kyle is going to be walking away with the dub here. Massive win. Oh my god, dude. Crazy game. I thought Khorne was going to break the back of the Empire there for a minute in the mid-game, but Random Cuban really did rally and almost managed to scream back into a winning position in that game, but not getting onto this number 3 objective in time. Very unfortunate. Karanak didn't have a tremendous amount to do. Couldn't really get after the Light Wizard. It was very well protected for most of the game. Balthasar Gelt wasn't worth going after in the back line there. I really kind of like having him, honestly, on foot like that with just the staff for the recharge. Pretty useful, truthfully. Halberds and Chaos Warriors, dude. Stalwart as usual, just being immovable objects and demanding a surfeit of units in order to get rid of them, and giving Kyle lots of time to develop out a lot of skirmishing elements. You know, Khorne doesn't skirmish like other factions do with ranged stuff, really. You use the Warhounds and the Furies to like pull units out of position, open up holes in the front line, and dive when and where you can get the most value with them. And Kyle just barely managed to pull that one off there. Really well played by both sides here. Could have gone either way with just a couple of different moments there. Cuban did have an Empire Knight that he forgot about on the edge of the battlefield, and I think having that Empire Knight being in the mix a lot sooner would have maybe been a tipping point for Khorne. So, little unfortunate there. But I'm gonna have to go give my my new acolytes some praise here. Kyle had some fat swords dropped that game. It was crazy. Oh my god. But, that is kind of the risk. Like, it is really nice to go wide against Khorne, and, if you can just, like, outlast them, kind of like what Cuban was doing, that, very wide playstyle can certainly work, but the problem is if you aren't overwhelming, positions, because Khorne is pretty expensive, and, that kind of ended up being the death knell for the Empire. They got screwed in the mid-game there. Those swords landing on top of multiple units of great swords, spearmen, swordsmen, a couple of archers got caught up in the mix of one of them. And, I mean, all of those combined is probably 800-900 value worth of damage, which isn't really reflected in the end total. I'm talking with Kyle for a bit here. Oh man. Kyle's telling me I wasn't even going to play Corn today. And shows up and sweeps everybody there at the end. Let's go take a look at the path to victory, because I think actually I think Kyle lost a game, right? Oh, had a bye round here, won all of his games. No, didn't win all of his games. Where's the loss though? And who did he lose to? Win in the last round, won the first game, had a bye in the third round. Oh, and lost. That's right. I remember now. Lost to Son of Heaven, to Stelius in that really close Chaos Dwarf game. Well, wow. We gotta. Have a new acolyte for the Blood God here. Hell yeah. Alright, guys. I think that's gonna be it for me today. It's been a really good stream, though. I hope y'all have enjoyed all the matches. And I do have some, I have some interesting stuff coming up this week. I'm gonna stream a little bit over the course of this one, and maybe have a special video. It depends. I do need my my counterpart to show up. We were gonna do what I'm planning on Saturday, my little surprise, but time wasn't really permitting. So hopefully on Tuesday we get it done, and then maybe later in the week we can I can release it for y'all. But I think it's a series that I'm really excited to work on. It's a little, like, passion project, I guess. And I think y'all will really appreciate it. We just need to get it rolling. But yeah. I'll see you guys later. Y'all take care.